Chapter 2079. Rushing into the formation, Yi Shiwen immediately fainted. Even someone as tough as him couldn't hold on at this moment, and fainted on the spot. He didn't know how long had passed, but in the chaos, everything was silent. Slowly, he woke up from the chaos. He opened his eyes in a daze. Before he could fully recover, he heard a chuckle. "You're awake." His heart suddenly tightened, and he suddenly woke up. He flipped over and stood up. He saw a middle-aged man standing proudly in front of him with his hands behind his back. There was a faint smile on his face. A distant memory suddenly rushed into his mind. This person was Li Feng, whom he hadn't seen for many years. Who else could it be? His heart relaxed a little, and he heaved a sigh of relief. It's only been a few hundred years, and your cultivation has actually reached such a level. Amazing! Li Feng looked at Yi Shiwen in amazement. He seemed to be a little surprised. He didn't expect that in just a few hundred years, in the blink of an eye, Yi Shiwen, whom he thought he would never see again, had already cultivated to such an amazing level. Peak of the second heaven of Powong realm. The power contained in his body probably far exceeded this realm. His cultivation was far higher than Yi Shiwen's. Naturally, he could see it at a glance. His eyes couldn't help but flash a look of admiration, and he couldn't help but feel a little lonely. There were so many geniuses in the human race. It wasn't without reason that the human race could become a big clan. Compared to the prosperous and developed human race, the bereaved clan was left with only 2 or 3 kittens. They were almost synonymous with history. Originally, he thought that Yi Shiwen would at most be limited to a small place like the true martial domain. Unexpectedly, his achievements were far beyond that. "Senior, you flatter me." Yi Shiwen cupped his hands and said, "I won't flatter anyone," Li Feng said unceremoniously. "If you didn't have this little strength, I wouldn't have said anything." "How did you come in?" Li Feng asked. "Did Xiaoya go to find you?" Li Feng was extremely intelligent. Almost in an instant, he had already figured out that this was the only possibility for Yi Shiwen to come all the way from the Xian world. "Yes," Yi Shiwen said. He didn't hesitate and directly released Leah. "Daddy, it's great that you're all right." Leah had just come out, and when she saw Li Feng, she immediately pounced on him. Although she had been in the Tianyuan mirror all this time and did not come out, she had been worried about Li Feng. At this moment, seeing that Li Feng was fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. "Silly girl." Li Feng smiled gracefully. He was not discouraged at all because he was trapped in this formation. "I knew it was because of you the moment he came. Apart from him, I don't think there's anyone else you can invite." Leah didn't know what she was thinking. She blushed and glanced at Yi Shiwen. "Hey, silly girl, you could have escaped. But now you're trapped here with me." Li Feng sighed. "If you're worried about me, you don't have to. This girl is too worried and confused. She definitely didn't tell you clearly. Although I'm trapped in this formation, it doesn't matter if there's no one presiding over it. Although there's an expert like the Elixir King in the Divine Dan realm, he's probably going to die soon. It's just that I'll be trapped for a longer time. When my cultivation improves, I'll naturally be able to break the formation and escape." "Little Ye is also very filial," Yi Shiwen said with a smile. Then, he told Li Feng about the Elixir King's self-destruction. "Sigh. A peerless expert of a generation has fallen now." Li Feng sighed. Although both sides were enemies at this moment, he still felt a sense of sympathy for the death of a rabbit. "So you were seriously injured by the Elixir King's self-destruction." "That's normal." Yi Shiwen did not mention the matter of the divine elixir. However, he believed that with Li Feng's intelligence, he had already guessed it. Both sides had a tacit understanding not to mention it. Although the relationship between the two wasn't that bad, it wasn't that good either. It was only because of Li Ye's relationship. In the past, they had fought each other for so many years. Although they were of different races, how could there not be any grudges in their hearts? "I was originally alone. If I wanted to rush out, I would need to spend more effort. However, with you around, it's just right. If you and I work together, we should be able to rush out in a few years," said Li Feng. "You heal your injuries first. Take advantage of this time. I'll rush little Ye's cultivation into the myth realm." "You've obtained that elixir?" asked Yi Shiwen. "This little girl really tells you everything. I've indeed obtained it. This is the physique of our race. After this stage, everything will be smooth sailing. I've been delayed too much in my life, so this is it. I don't ask for anything else. However, Lily has just started. I hope that she can improve further and revitalize our race in the future. Li Feng did not hide anything and said. Yi Shiwen sighed. The grievances between the human race and the native clan had lasted for many years. No one was right or wrong. It was all for the sake of survival. Since Li Feng said so, Yi Shiwen did not hesitate. He directly sat down and began to operate the Phoenix regeneration technique to heal his injuries. This time, he was seriously injured, and then he was half dead after being chased by that stern young master. His physical body almost collapsed. This kind of behavior of snatching food from the tiger's mouth once was enough. Next time, he must be very careful. However, a horse would not get fat without grass at night. If it were not for several times like this, how could he have improved so quickly? His divine thoughts entered the Tianyuan mirror and saw that in the Tianyuan mirror, the human-shaped elixir was directly floating in the air, constantly spewing elixir energy in all directions, almost rendering the world inside the Tianyuan mirror into a brand new divine Dan realm. In the sky of the Tianyuan mirror, a chain condensed from law talismans directly stretched out, locking the human-shaped elixir in it to prevent it from escaping. Even if it had already fallen, it was still not to be underestimated. This was the first time Yi Shiwen had truly captured the corpse of a deity apart from the physical body of the Lord of Darkness. Moreover, it was different from the Lord of Darkness. Yi Shiwen could not do anything to the Lord of Darkness, but as long as there was a little of this elixir, it would be a great benefit for him. He directly opened his mouth, and some elixir energy from the human-shaped elixir directly crossed the vast sky, forming a huge river. In one breath, all of it was absorbed into Yi Shiwen's body. His physical body, which was originally on the verge of collapse, was actually recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. This efficiency was even better than the Phoenix regeneration technique. This elixir was indeed amazing. It was originally a peerless elixir refined by the pill god, and later on, this elixir even proved itself and added endless temples. After another 10 days, he finally completely recovered from the injuries on his body. He glanced at Li Ye again, who was doing her best to break through, and Li Feng was doing his best to protect her, using his own martial arts to prop up a world in this area crushed by the formation. Father's love, roughly speaking, was like this. Yi Shiwen did not idle around. After confirming that Li Ye would not come out for a while, he simply entered into a state of closed-door training and began to break through to the third level of Paong realm. There was too much blood essence belonging to a master in the legend realm in his body. Even though he had broken through twice, he still did not completely consume it. In addition, there was the abomination God suppressed in his body previously, so he already had the qualifications to break through to the third level of Paong realm in one breath. In addition, there was also the previous understanding of the peak of the legend realm, so he did not have to worry about advancing too quickly and causing his cultivation to collapse uncontrollably. After making up his mind, he absorbed another elixir's elixir energy, and then completely stimulated the legend realm blood essence that was suppressed in his body, and began to refine it into his own martial arts to help him completely break through to the third level of Paong realm. Boom! 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 Circles of air waves erupted from his body, stirring up the ominous formation in the sky, and also constantly shaking. An incomparably loud roar was heard, causing the whole world to shake endlessly. And at this time, Yi Shiwen finally released the abomination god that was suppressed in his body. TSK, 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 TSK. I'm finally out again. Damned human, how dare you hurt me? I won't let you off. As soon as the abomination god appeared, it saw Yi Shiwen. It really hated Yi Shiwen to the core. Idiot! Yi Shiwen laughed coldly and immediately opened his hand and suddenly grabbed at the sky. The abomination god that had just appeared was immediately caught in his hand, and then without waiting for the abomination god to say anything, he directly opened his mouth and swallowed the abomination god. Boom! Inside Yi Shiwen's body, the flesh instantly shattered, and it was forcibly blown up by a powerful and terrifying force. Want to swallow me? Don't even think about it. The abomination god's insolent laughter was heard. Seal? Before the flesh turned into powder, Yi Shiwen shouted, and the word seal descended from the sky, enveloping his flesh. The flesh that was about to be torn apart was immediately sealed, and it began to recover again. Bit by bit, Yi Shiwen was like a broken ceramic that was glued back together. The whole scene looked extremely strange, but as he forcibly reorganized his flesh bit by bit, the power was also constantly refined by him, and his strength also continued to increase bit by bit, and he was breaking through to the third level of Paoang realm with all his strength. Boom! 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 Parts of Yi Shiwen's body exploded from time to time, and gusts of air directly rushed out, but his expression was extremely calm, and he quietly waited for the day of the breakthrough. Time flew like a white steed, and it was impossible to grasp it. In the blink of an eye, 7 years passed in the blink of an eye. Chapter 2080. Yi Shiwen didn't know how much time had passed. He only knew that he was constantly practicing, and practicing. He was seizing every minute and every second to practice. He didn't have a moment of distraction because he was in a state where he could explode at any time. No, it should be said that he was constantly exploding. Every time his body exploded, the amount of blood essence he absorbed would increase, and he would become stronger. Although the conditions had been met, it had only been a short time since his last breakthrough. This time it seemed a little forced, so it was especially difficult for him to break through. For him, there was that enlightening mind ancient tree to stabilize his mind. Therefore, his mind wouldn't get tired. Ordinary people would have to stop because they had consumed a lot of their mind power. However, he wouldn't have such trouble. On the contrary, he could constantly attack a higher realm without stopping. Moreover, he didn't need to stop. He felt like he was a flood that was constantly pounding against a dam. The dam was on the verge of collapsing under his constant erosion, as if it could collapse at any time. However, he didn't know how long it had been, but he still couldn't break the dam. Boom! Finally, he broke through the bottleneck of the third heaven of the Paoang realm that had troubled him for many years. He broke through to the third heaven of the Paoang realm in one fell swoop. The chi and blood in his body continued to rise into the sky, like a huge pillar that supported the sky. His cultivation was still growing. The blood essence in his body was also constantly being absorbed by him and transformed into martial power. So his martial power was constantly improving. After a long time, he finally absorbed the last bit of blood essence that belonged to a demigod. He could feel that the blood in his body had become more golden, and there was more and more golden divinity mixed in it. This meant that he was gradually approaching the realm of gods. If he could completely turn his blood golden, it would mean that he had completely entered the realm of Tao confirmation. That would be the blood of gods. The blood essence of the mythical experts that he had collected in the past was only a small part of each mythical expert. After providing him with 3 consecutive breakthroughs, it was finally completely consumed. But he could feel that his cultivation was unprecedentedly strong. With the help of the devoured divine sins, he felt that the divinity in his body had become more powerful. His martial power had almost climbed to the peak of the third level of Paoang realm in one breath. He didn't know how much hard work had been saved, but he was satisfied with it. As soon as he opened his eyes, he sensed that the lightning elements around him were abnormally active. Shocked, he looked up again and saw that at some point in time, boundless tribulation clouds had formed in the sky. This was the demigod tribulation. Yi Shiwen, who had also crossed the demigod tribulation, was too familiar with it. It was just that compared to his tribulation at that time, this tribulation was undoubtedly smaller, but at the same time, it was also much bigger than the tribulation of ordinary people. And at this time, the tribulation was coming to an end. In the range of the tribulation, a graceful figure was fighting in the sky. It was none other than Li Ye. Li Ye's movements were graceful, like a fairy descending to the world, but she was able to shatter the tribulation every time. This demigod tribulation could not do anything to her. In fact, Yi Shiwen could even see that she was using the tribulation to refine the blood essence of the mythical experts in her body, as well as the power of the demon pellet that Yi Shiwen had sealed in her body. She was refining all of them so that she could be at her peak state at any time without having to think about anything else. Yi Shiwen vaguely felt that the powerful qi and blood and the method of crossing the tribulation were vaguely familiar. Very soon, he realized why it felt so familiar. This was clearly the method he used to cross the tribulation, and Liu was actually 50% similar to him. The corners of his mouth could not help but reveal a slight smile. This girl. And at the edge of the tribulation, Li Feng stood with his hands behind his back. His tall and straight figure was like a spear piercing the sky, emitting a majestic aura. His sharp gaze that was like an eagle's had always been on Liya, and it had never left her since the beginning. Even if he clearly knew that Liya wouldn't be in any danger when overcoming the tribulation, he still didn't dare relax. Once something went wrong, he would probably personally interfere. Sensing Yi Shiwen's breakthrough, he finally turned his head and said, "You've broken through?" "Yes." Yi Shiwen nodded with a smile. There was nothing to hide. "Your cultivation is indeed very fast. No wonder you've already cultivated to such a level after not seeing each other for so many years." Li Feng also praised. Even after not seeing Yi Shiwen for hundreds of years, the shock he felt when he saw Yi Shiwen again was not as great as the shock he felt when he saw Yi Shiwen right under his nose. He vaguely finally understood why Yi Shiwen had improved so quickly. All these years, he had thought that his daughter had improved rapidly under his guidance. He believed that she was not inferior to the most outstanding disciples of the immortal legacies, and might even be more outstanding. Who would have thought that there would still be a huge gap between her and this monster? When he was at this age, he definitely wasn't as strong as he was now. Yi Shiwen nodded without replying. He pinched his fingers and calculated, and immediately understood that a full 7 years had actually passed. Didn't this mean that the Tao lecture at the Nameless Tao Institute had ended? He had originally only planned to go to the Divine Dan realm, but he had never imagined that he would be delayed here for 7 years. To a cultivator, 7 years was just a blink of an eye. However, he couldn't take it lightly. He didn't know how the profound world and the ancient desolate era had changed in 7 years. His heart was filled with urgency. Without the protection of the Nameless Tao Institute, both the Heaven Wasteland Hall and the Divine Union would no longer be polite, and a clash between the two parties was inevitable. Although his cultivation base had improved during these 7 years, and he had broken through to the 3rd level of the Paong realm, he was still far from the strength of the Heaven Wasteland Hall and the Divine Union. He did not have much confidence in this, so he could only give it his all. His mind sank into the Tianyuan mirror. Other than the human-shaped divine elixir, there was also a domineering figure sitting in the void in the depths of the Tianyuan mirror, surrounded by the power of darkness. He could only hope that Yi Mo would be able to seize the physical body of the Lord of Darkness in time. In that case, he would still have the strength to fight. If he really could not do it, he could only forcefully spit out the divine elixir and fight. That would be the last resort. Firstly, it would be a waste. Secondly, given his cultivation base, he would probably explode on the spot. However, if it really came to that, he was afraid that he would have no other choice. This was not the time for him to make a choice. His gaze once again turned to Liya, who was undergoing the tribulation in the sky. The tribulation was slowly approaching its end, and the power of the tribulation was getting weaker and weaker, unable to pose any threat to Liya. Boom! Suddenly, the aura on Liya's body soared into the sky, and she broke into the myth realm in one fell swoop. Her body was faintly entwined with golden silk threads, which was the divinity that she had condensed. After entering the Paong realm, she did not stop. She rushed all the way to the peak of the 1st level of the Paong realm. She was still breaking through continuously, and the tribulation clouds in the sky had already been completely cleared. Damn, she was going to break into the 2nd level of the Paong realm in one go. She was even more vigorous than me at that time. Even Yi Shiwen had to admit that he had always been envious of Li Ya's talent. However, it was limited to this, because he had seen too many geniuses who were far more talented than him. However, in the end, he was the one who had the last laugh. The blood essence in Xiaoya's body. Was it you who sealed it in her body? asked Li Feng. He could easily guess that it was related to Yi Shiwen. Yes. Yi Shiwen nodded. This time, Leah was able to break into the Paoang realm so easily. In addition to the preparations that Li Feng had made all these years, the blood essence of a master at the third level of the Paoang realm that Yi Shiwen had sealed in her body had also played a great role. Li Feng looked at Yi Shiwen with some emotion and finally sighed. Although he was a human, he had to admit that Yi Shiwen treated Leah well. Even as her father, he could not find any fault with it. The blood essence of a master at the myth realm was not cabbage that could be found by the roadside. It was impossible for ordinary people to obtain it. In fact, it was Yi Shiwen who had brought Leah out of that sealed forbidden area. Otherwise, who knew how long it would take for him to find Leah? The line of defense in his heart was slightly loosened. From this moment onwards, he had truly accepted the relationship between Yi Shiwen and Leah. After breaking into the peak of the first level of the Paoang realm, Leah did not stop. She once again tried to break into the second level of the Paoang realm. Moreover, she did not have to wait for long. She directly broke into the second level of the Paoang realm on the spot. Only then did she barely deplete the blood essence of a master at the third level of the Paoang realm in her body. She retracted the aura on her body. With a glance, she saw Yi Shiwen and Li Feng looking at her from the periphery. She could not help but immediately rush over. Seeing that Leah had successfully broken into the Paoang realm, Li Feng finally heaved a sigh of relief. Then he said, "Now that Xiaoya has also broken into the Paoang realm, I have finally settled a matter that has been bothering me. Let's work together now and break out directly." "Where do you plan to break through from?" asked Yi Shiwen. "I've been studying this formation for all these years. I've discovered the formation eye of this formation. Although it's a little dangerous, we can only break through from the formation eye if we don't want to be trapped here until the end of time." Li Feng glanced at Yi Shiwen and said with a smile that wasn't a smile, "Xiaoya and I are fine. It doesn't matter even if we die alone here. However, can you do it?" Yi Shiwen immediately nodded without hesitation and said, "In that case, let's not delay anymore. Let's rush out directly." Chapter 2081. In the depths of the Divine Dan realm, on the tallest Divine Dan mountain, there was an incomparably huge formation enveloping it. This was originally the territory of the Dan King. He was the master of the Divine Dan realm, a supreme existence within the Divine Dan realm. However, as the King of Elixirs self-destructed in the God's tomb, the King of Elixirs' forces scattered. Originally, there were many mythical experts in the Divine Dan realm. These mythical experts were the rulers of the Divine Dan realm under the rule of the King of Elixirs. Now that the King of Elixirs had been defeated, the Divine Dan realm had entered a stage where heroes fought for supremacy. Many mythical level-pill demons began to fight for the remaining resources and forces of the King of Elixirs. They divided everything that belonged to the King of Elixirs. This included the Divine Dan Mountain, which symbolized the supreme existence in the Divine Dan realm. It was also the target of many pellet demons. Of the two masters of the Divine Dan Mountain, the first was the Supreme Pill God, and the second was the Pill King, who had ruled over the Divine Dan realm for countless years. Now, with his death, the Divine Dan Mountain had once again entered a masterless state. The two strongest pellet demons at the 7th level of the Paoang realm had fought countless battles over the ownership of the Divine Dan Mountain. In the past 7 years, both sides had clashed countless times. In the Divine Dan realm, there was no one stronger than them. In other words, no matter who won or lost, they would become the new master of the Divine Dan realm. With the resources and power of the entire Divine Dan realm, it was unknown whether they would become the next king of Dan in the future. Therefore, the fight around the Divine Dan Mountain was exceptionally bloody and tragic. Countless demon beasts were killed in the air and fell to the ground. The battle had even affected the back of the Divine Dan Mountain. It was a place covered by countless arrays. In the past, it was the place where the pellet god practiced in seclusion. Later on, the King of Dan did not have the ability to open up a place for seclusion. He could only divide it into a forbidden area, which was also the back of the Divine Dan Mountain. He lived in the front of the mountain. By this point, the front mountain was already covered with corpses. Although they were pill demons, the intensity of the fighting was not one bit inferior to the fighting between humans. In the sky, two demigod Dan beasts of the seventh heavenly layer of Pawang realm were fighting fiercely. One of them was a humanoid legend Dan beast, holding a long spear in his hand. He was dressed in iron clothes and used to be the #1 general under Dan King. In front of him was a powerful Dan beast. Its body was emitting a powerful chi, which made people shudder when they saw it. As the confidant of the King of Dan, he had heard the King of Dan say that unless the King of Dan was in his peak condition, he wouldn't be a match for the peerless demon. In his heart, the King of Dan was an invincible existence, an existence that even the King of Dan felt he couldn't defeat. That silhouette was deeply imprinted in his heart. At this moment, he suddenly thought of something. Could it be that the person that came out of the formation was that terrifying existence? Impossible. That formation was set up by the god of Dan. It was a divine formation. How could an ordinary person break it? Even the King of Dan couldn't do it. He could only use the fact that he was the disciple of the god of Dan and knew a bit about formations. That was how he managed to activate the formation. It was impossible to destroy it. However, what was going on with the giant hand in front of him? He suddenly felt terrified, but then his pupils shrank. He clearly saw the figure that shocked him a few years ago. Indeed, the demon that was imprisoned in the formation had come out. At this moment, he almost instinctively wanted to escape. He was different from the King of Dan beasts. He had experienced the power of the great demon. So many experts in the myth realm couldn't do anything to him. If the King of Dan didn't trick him into the formation, they would have all been annihilated. That was the peak of the myth realm, a true peak of the myth realm. He immediately turned around and ran away. Want to leave? Li Feng shouted coldly. He immediately formed a giant hand. The giant hand was entangled with countless laws in the air. It turned into a cage that could imprison the heavens and directly enveloped the battle general. Bang! He couldn't escape in time and was suppressed by Li Feng. Yi Shiwen watched from the side and couldn't help but be amazed. Yi Shiwen watched from the side and couldn't help but gasp in amazement. Back then, he thought that he had already seen through Li Feng's cultivation. Now that he thought about it, he realized how ignorant and ridiculous he was. That was just an illusion. If it wasn't for the old Big Dipper Alliance Master's persistence, Li Feng's cultivation would probably be able to turn the true martial domain upside down. However, Yi Shiwen was a little curious. The old Alliance Master could surpass the Transcendent Realm because he had survived for countless years. Moreover, he had the support of Emperor Qin's life source. How did Li Feng cultivate to such a powerful strength? The peak of the myth realm was the highest combat power when the deities didn't appear. The pellet beast battle general at the 7th level of the Pawang realm couldn't escape at all. He was imprisoned in front of Yi Shiwen by Li Feng. As for the pellet beast, it was enraged and wanted to escape. However, after being slapped by Li Feng, it instantly became obedient. Although it was a pellet beast, it had already developed its spiritual wisdom. It wasn't stupid. How could it not see how terrifying the person in front of it was? It wasn't someone they could be compared to. Two peak existences at the 7th level of the Pawang realm. Among the myths, they were powerful existences that could call the wind and summon the rain. At this time, they could only obediently sign a master-servant contract with Li Ye. Yes, not with Li Feng, but with Li Ye. Yi Shiwen understood that Li Feng wasn't looking for a coachman and a strange beast to pull the carriage for him. He was obviously looking for two helpers for Li Ye, two protectors. With two myth experts at the 7th level of the Pawang realm protecting her, she could go anywhere in the world. As long as she didn't provoke any extremely terrifying experts, she wouldn't have to worry about protecting herself. Yi Shiwen couldn't help but sigh. How pitiful! They were all in the same mood. Li Feng only took in these two pellet beasts at the 7th level of the Pawang realm. He didn't even spare a glance at their subordinates. He just watched them flee in all directions. This situation was very similar to the time when the King of Elixirs was defeated and his subordinates scattered like monkeys when the tree fell. Death and rise, it might only be a short moment. No one could know what would happen in the next second. Only strength was eternal. Forces were just clothes attached to strength. Yishuan had a lot of feelings in his heart. He stepped forward, cupped his hands, and said, "Since Mr. Li has escaped, then I'll take my leave first. I still have things to do, so I can't stay for long." "Big brother, can you stay?" Li Yu's face revealed an expression of reluctance. This period of time was the happiest time for her. Although she was trapped in the formation, the two most important people in her life were by her side. Even if she was trapped in it for the rest of her life, she was willing to be trapped for the rest of her life. "Silly girl, your big brother still has things to do. Don't stop him." Li Feng touched Li Yu's head lovingly and said, "Since you have things to do, go ahead. I owe you a favor this time. If there's anything in the future, you can directly crush this talisman, and I'll rush over." After Li Feng threw a talisman to Yi Shiwen, he didn't say anything else. He directly disappeared into the sky with Li Yu and his two new subordinates. Chapter 2082. After bidding farewell to Li Feng and Li Yu, Yi Shiwen didn't stop and directly flew towards the outside of the Divine Dan realm. Through the mountain river map, he discovered that the Divine Dan realm, which had been forcibly revealed by the King of Elixirs, had begun to change its trajectory and was about to return to the endless void. Yi Shiwen felt it was a pity. There were many benefits in the Divine Dan world, but as long as he had the mountain river map, he would be able to get it back sooner or later. He was in a hurry to return to the Xian world and take back his incarnation. After integrating the results of 10 years of listening to the Tao, he would go one step further and directly step into the Golden Hepta realm, reaching the middle stage of the Myth realm. In general, this trip to the Divine Dan world had been delayed for a long time, but he had also made great progress, especially the Tianyuan mirror, which had continuously absorbed the blood essence of those demigod experts and restored it to the level of a pseudo-divine tool. The talismans on it were intertwined, making it extremely sturdy, completely enhancing his strength. As he clenched his fist, he clearly felt a strong force surging out of his body and sweeping out. This was the power that belonged to the third heaven of the Paoang realm. Together with the 5 Emperor's battle suit, martial arts incarnation, and other means, ordinary masters of the 5th heaven of the Paoang realm were nothing in his eyes, and he could kill them with one move. Compared to before, his strength had increased by more than 10 times. It was not at the same level at all. Every step was like ascending to the heavens. The improvement of strength at each level was like heaven and earth. Of course, this was not something an ordinary person could achieve. If he hadn't devoured the blood essence of so many demigods, comprehended their martial arts, deduced a deeper level of martial arts, and supplemented with energy from their blood essence, he would have been able to compete with an ordinary expert of Paoang realm at most. Even if this was already very shocking, but compared to his current strength, it was not worth mentioning. The energy in his body was now terrifyingly huge, far exceeding that of an ordinary third heaven of the Paoang realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to compete with a third heaven of the Paoang realm master. Even with the addition of martial arts incarnation, no one could do it. He had finally taken another step forward, but he felt that he was even further away from the Abyss Demon Lord and the others. He had been so bold and ignorant in the past, but now, the more he knew, the more worried he became. However, such combat power was naturally not limitless. After all, he was not a true 5th heaven of the Paoang realm. His main combat power depended on the integration of the martial arts incarnation, and the martial arts incarnation would be exhausted. He estimated that he would need to consume hundreds of millions of Xian pills in one battle. Even if he had just made a fortune, he would not be able to withstand a few times of consumption. However, this was still much better than having no methods at all. He narrowed his eyes and disappeared into the void. When he reappeared, he was already 1,000 miles away, heading straight for the exit of the Divine Dan realm. "Big brother, we've been looking for him for a few years now, and we still haven't found him. Could it be that he's really dead?" A group of experts from the Great Change sect were gathered in a certain area. The one who spoke was the second sect leader of the Great Change sect. "We must avenge our third brother's death. We must not let this brat get away with it," the Great Change sect leader said coldly. The three brothers had a deep relationship. They had cultivated together for countless years, and their friendship was even deeper than that of biological brothers. However, the heavenly law of the divine Dan realm has undergone a great change and will soon return to nothingness. If we don't leave in time, I'm afraid we'll be trapped in the divine Dan realm forever. The second sect leader of the Great Change sect advised. Moreover, the situation in the divine Dan realm is getting more and more chaotic. The vassals are fighting each other, and the pill demons have already gone crazy in order to fight for the position of Pill King. If we're not careful, we may be implicated. This is the last time. Search the entire divine Dan realm. If we still can't find him, then we'll give up. The Great Change sect leader could not help but gnash his teeth and say. In the end, reason won the upper hand. Are you looking for me? A teasing voice resounded from the void. The hearts of the disciples of the Great Change sect couldn't help but tighten as they looked around in all directions. At this time, they finally caught sight of a figure. It was an extremely imposing figure, standing tall in midair with his hands clasped behind his back. Who else could it be but Yi Shiwen? Brat, I didn't expect you to still be alive. The second sect leader of the Great Change sect couldn't help but roar in a low voice. His eyes instantly turned red. Little bastard, you still dare to show up? The Great Change sect leader couldn't help but roar in anger. Why wouldn't I dare to show up? Yi Shiwen faintly smiled and looked at the sun in the sky. The sunlight that was emitting from the sun was also condensed from Danshi. Seal off the surrounding area. We must not let this little bastard escape. The Great Change Divine Cult's great lord shouted loudly. The experts of the Great Change Divine Cult responded in unison and arranged themselves in a battle formation. They surrounded Yi Shiwen and sealed the entire void with a barrier. The sky suddenly turned dark, and dark clouds started to roll in. The second sect leader of the Great Change sect suddenly attacked. He used the peerless technique of the Great Change sect. Countless rays of divine light danced in the sky. They interweaved in the void and formed a huge hand. It grabbed towards Yi Shiwen. He still remembered that Yi Shiwen's cultivation was still at the level of a long time ago. Escape? Do I need to? Yi Shiwen was not afraid at all. He instantly released the aura from his body and faced these experts from a distance. He didn't relax at all. His body was instantly strengthened by the 5 emperors, and the 5 emperors' battle armor appeared. The figure behind him quickly integrated into his body. Boom! 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 The aura on his body instantly exploded to its peak. His strength directly rushed to the level of the 5th heaven of the Paoang realm. It was too tyrannical and terrifying. As Yi Shiwen's aura swept out, the experts from the Great Change Divine Sect, who were at the peak of the profound death stage, were sent flying on the spot. The boundaries that they had set up were completely unable to withstand Yi Shiwen's aura waves and were directly smashed into pieces. Yi Shiwen completely ignored the huge hand that the second sect leader of the Great Change sect had directly grabbed towards him. He didn't pay much attention to it. Endless divinity surged in his hand, and he immediately formed a seal. Han seal. Suddenly, a huge mountain range appeared. He grabbed it in his hand, and thousands of tyrannical aura were released from his body. He held the huge mountain range like a long stick and waved it. Boom! The huge hand was directly smashed into pieces on the spot. There was not a single bit of it left. Yi Shiwen smiled coldly. Only this level of strength, and you want to kill me? You are still far from it. How can he be so strong? The head sect leader of the Great Change sect had never expected Yi Shiwen to be so tyrannical. The second sect leader of the Great Change sect was definitely at the peak of the 5th heaven of the Paoang realm. If he was defeated so easily, one could imagine how tyrannical the person in front of him was. He was far more powerful than he had imagined. His face was full of shock, and he dared not believe his eyes. Previously, in order to chase after Yi Shiwen, he had tried everything he could to find out a lot of information about Yi Shiwen. Among them was Yi Shiwen's strength. However, he had never heard of Yi Shiwen being an expert who could defeat the 5th heaven of the Paoang realm. Otherwise, he would definitely not choose to fight Yi Shiwen head-on. Deep in his heart, he finally understood that this time he was afraid that he had completely kicked an iron plate, but things had already come to this point. He had no other choice and no way out. Yi Shiwen had come in a threatening manner, obviously to seek revenge. How can he accommodate such a huge amount of power? What kind of physique does he have? Even if he is also an expert of the fifth heaven of the Palong realm, it is very rare for him to be able to accommodate such a huge amount of power. The second sect leader of the Great Change sect could not help but be taken aback. He had never seen such a strong existence. With the cultivation of the third heaven of the Palong realm, Yi Shiwen was actually able to suppress two experts of the fifth heaven of the Palong realm. It was simply incredible. No matter how powerful he is only at the third heaven of the Palong realm. He must have used some secret technique. However, such a secret technique cannot be maintained forever. Once his secret technique ends, it will be the time of his death. We must kill him at all costs. The head sect leader of the Great Change sect suddenly calmed down. Although Yi Shiwen's strength was tyrannical, it was impossible for him to be invincible forever. Yes, we must kill him at all costs. He is so young, but he already has such a cultivation. He must have had an extraordinary encounter. If we can kill him, we will be able to plunder his fortune. When that time comes, we may be able to go one step further. The second sect leader of the Great Change sect had a somewhat crazy look on his face. It seemed that he had no other choice. The two of them had known each other for countless years. Just by exchanging a glance, they already understood each other's intentions. If they could not suppress Yi Shiwen's momentum, then they would most likely be the ones to die. Suddenly, both sides had already erupted with a shocking aura. Masters of the Palong realm of the fifth heaven were not weak even in the myths. Layers of Jinyuan began to burn on their bodies. Golden talismans flew out of their bodies. Their martial arts relied on divinity and directly displayed their divinity. A terrifying power was borrowed from the void and interweaved into a terrifying world. High up in the sky, they directly bombarded Yi Shiwen. This was their joint domain. It was almost condensed into a substance of the divine kingdom. It sealed everything in order to bury all enemies and seal Yi Shiwen's aura. Chapter 2083. Yi Shiwen was shrouded in the terrifying chain domain. Right at this moment, the second sect leader of the Great Change sect was burning his entire body with true energy. Even though the battle had just begun, he didn't dare to be careless. If he were to be careless, the battle might just end before it even started. Whoosh! His attack swept over in an instant. He directly punched out. The terrifying fist energy was incomparably fierce. The fierce fist energy blew up everything in the void. On the other side, the great leader of the Great Change God cult also attacked at the same time. He also burned his chi and raised his fighting strength to the extreme. The two of them joined forces to kill Yi Shiwen. Both of them were top masters of the fifth level of Palong realm. They had to use a pincer attack to deal with Yi Shiwen, a junior of the third level of Palong realm. One could imagine how afraid they were of Yi Shiwen. No matter how powerful a master of the fifth level of Palong realm was, he would be completely flustered in the face of such an attack. If he was not careful, he might be killed on the spot. However, Yi Shiwen was not afraid at all. He stood in the air like a great emperor. Layers of golden divinities surged under his feet like waves of the sea. He waved his hand, and the aura on his body suddenly swept out. Just the two of you, and you want to kill me? You're really infatuated, Yi Shiwen said. Countless talismans appeared on the five emperors' battle armor. Yi Shiwen's aura was constantly increasing. In an instant, he directly punched out. Meteor explosion. Suddenly, it was like a star had exploded. This move was under the control of Yi Shiwen's demigod power. It could be considered to be the full power of this move. Boom! 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 Yi Shiwen directly blasted out a punch. An astonishing fist shadow swept out as if it wanted to cut off the river of fate. The three figures in the void constantly collided. At this time, the two leaders of the Great Change God cult also directly displayed their powerful strength as a senior legendary master. Their strength had been pushed to the extreme. They wanted to fight Yi Shiwen to the death. Boom! The entire void exploded in an instant. With an incomparably loud explosion, the entire void turned into powder. The might of the clash between the two parties caused the entire space to evaporate in an instant. Everything within a radius of 10,000 miles was turned into dust. With such a terrifying attack, if it had happened in an ordinary world, the entire world would have been completely torn apart. Die! Just as the void evaporated, the sect leader of the Great Change sect raised her aura to the maximum. A long blade appeared in her hands, emitting a dazzling radiance that resembled the Milky Way as she slashed downwards. Break! Yishuan didn't hesitate and directly punched. That dreadful power seemed to render everything in the surroundings into stars. It suddenly melted all of a sudden. Boom! Yishuan's fist and the long blade directly collided with each other, and the Bladiki and Yishuan's fist energy directly dissolved, and the shockwaves spread out in all directions. Still not enough, break for me! Yishuan shouted loudly, and once again blasted out a punch. A terrifying fist energy blasted out once again, and directly blasted into that blade light. Bang! Yishuan's 2 consecutive punches directly blasted apart everything, and blasted that blade light away. That dreadful power spread along his fist, and directly spread to his whole body, and directly split it open. His whole body flew out horizontally like a cannonball. An extremely tyrannical demigod-level expert was actually blasted away by Yishuan's punch. One could well imagine how tyrannical Yishuan's current strength was. Just as Yishuan was about to go one step further, the Great Change sect's second sect leader, who was behind him, grinned and rushed towards him. He condensed all the power in his body into his fist and wanted to kill Yishuan all at once. There was almost no gap between the two of them. After countless years of practice, their coordination had long been impeccable. However, Yishuan was too strong, and he unexpectedly blasted the sect leader away in an instant. Just as the sect leader's fist was about to hit the back of Yishuan's head, a huge scroll suddenly appeared above his head, and a curtain of light hung down from it and protected him. Dang! The Great Change sect's second sect leader's fist directly hit the curtain of light and directly cracked it, but was unable to break through it. Yishuan suddenly turned around and suddenly blasted out a punch, which turned into an incomparably huge star and smashed everything in its path. How can he be so strong? The second sect leader kept retreating. This time, their coordination had completely failed. Yishuan's strength had far exceeded his imagination and was more terrifying than any of the experts he had met before. He could not imagine how Yishuan, who was only at the 3rd level of Powong realm, could be so strong. Was there any justice in this world? What kind of martial technique is he practicing? Why is it so terrifying? Even if it were me, I would completely collapse if I were to absorb such a powerful energy. The second sect leader kept retreating and became even more frightened. Naturally, he did not understand the mystery of Yishuan's observing person scripture, which was to transform one's body into the universe and become the monstrous will of the universe. The universe can accommodate all kinds of things, and naturally, it was far from being comparable to them. Let's go, second brother. He is not someone we can deal with. The Great Change God cult's great leader suddenly shouted. He had finally realized how foolish his previous plan of holding on until Yishuan collapsed had been. Perhaps Yishuan would not be able to maintain such peak fighting strength, but they could not wait for that time to come. Want to leave? You want to leave now? I think it's too late. Yishuan raised his eyebrows, and like a ferocious tiger, he pounced on the second sect leader. The power of his whole body was surging, and the golden divinity swept out, forming a domain of wind and thunder, and sealed the two of them. Not good. He really wants to trap us and then kill us. The second sect leader of the Great Change sect was shocked. Just now, the two of them had joined forces to trap Yishuan, but they never expected that they would be trapped by Yishuan instead. Let's fight him. The Great Change sect leader of the Great Change sect had gone crazy. He had used all his strength, but still couldn't tear the space. Originally, it was as easy as tearing tofu for him, but now it had unknowingly become as stiff as metal. That's right, let's fight him. Even if we die, we must let him accompany us. These two powerful experts had been forced into a dead end by Yi Shiwen at this moment. They could only fight with their lives on the line, and perhaps there would be a chance of survival. The only way out was to fight. Yi Shiwen's expression was ice cold. He had seen the crazy expressions of these two legendary experts, but he didn't have the slightest bit of sympathy for them. The contradiction between the two sides had long been irresolvable, and it was either you die or I live. It's useless, in my opinion. Your strength is simply not enough. Yi Shiwen's face was expressionless. Facing these two people who were already fighting with their lives on the line, Yi Shiwen's palm surged with Nanming Leaf fire and easily broke their offensive. The power of the Nanming Leaf fire was too great. It was not something that could be compared to others. Not only did it break through their attacks, but it was also like maggots in their bones. It directly bit into their bodies. The two of them repeatedly blasted out their famous unique skills and barely managed to extinguish the Nanming mythical fire. They were thoroughly embarrassed, and Yi Shiwen hadn't even made a move yet. The gap between the strength of the two sides seemed to be further widening. This is the Nanming Leaf fire of the Phoenix race. Who are you? Why do you use Nanming Leaf fire? Are you actually a phoenix? Both of them opened their eyes wide, and they had an incredulous look on their faces. While they were still in shock, Yi Shiwen finally made his move. The 5 Emperor's battle armor on his body erupted with an astonishing light. This was the first time that he had unleashed his full strength. A yin-yang life and death diagram appeared in his hand, and the yin and yang qi directly swept out, destroying the world. Even if we die, you must die with us. The Great Change sect leader had gone completely crazy, and his eyes were bloodshot. It was as if he wanted to destroy everything in order to vent the hatred in his heart. Shwa, shwa, shwa. The yin and yang qi directly swept down, and the two of them struggled to resist. They burned their whole bodies Jinyuan in an attempt to fight back, but they couldn't even lift their heads. Yi Shiwen's yin and yang qi ruthlessly swept down like a storm. Even if I'm in a hopeless situation, I won't give up. I'll drag you to hell with me, the Great Change sect leader said fiercely. Even if he was forced into a hopeless situation, he would never give up. He had the disposition of an ambitious and ruthless person. His qi and blood suddenly burned to the extreme, and his strength seemed to rise to a higher realm in an instant. He wanted to use this attack to seriously injure Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen's eyes narrowed, and he brazenly made a move. He pinched a seal, and a huge mountain condensed in the sky and smashed down. Bang! The head of the Great Change God cult was smashed into the ground, and his head smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. His rising, imposing aura was also broken by Yi Shiwen midway. Since he knew that this attack was very dangerous, how could he let Yi Shiwen take advantage of it? Then, Yi Shiwen's foot fell down. Bang! The Great Change sect leader didn't even have time to react, and was directly crushed by Yi Shiwen's foot. The difference in strength between the two of them was too obvious. At this time, the second sect leader saw that something was wrong, and actually wanted to escape. Chapter 2084. In fact, this was a play put on by the great schoolmaster. Obviously, it was to give the second schoolmaster a chance to escape. Unfortunately, he still underestimated Yi Shiwen's strength. Yi Shiwen could deal with him effortlessly, so he didn't give the second schoolmaster a chance to escape. Yi Shiwen stomped on the second sect leader, causing the void to shake violently. The second sect leader was hit by the shockwave, and his body exploded on the spot. He screamed and turned into blood essence, which was absorbed by Yi Shiwen's body. Although the strength of these two people couldn't be compared to Yi Shiwen, they were still at the peak of the fifth heaven of Paoang realm. Their blood essence also fell into Yi Shiwen's body. Compared to this, Yi Shiwen was overjoyed. The wealth that the two of them brought with them for many years also fell into Yi Shiwen's hands. There were as many as 3 billion Xian pills, which was comparable to the ancient ancestor religion. In particular, the two of them plundered everywhere in the divine Dan realm and obtained a lot of wealth. Now, all of it fell into Yi Shiwen's hands. In addition to the 1 billion Xian pills that Yi Shiwen obtained before, he plundered more than 4 billion Xian pills in this trip to the Divine Dan realm. It could be said to be a great harvest, and there were countless heavenly treasures. After killing the two, Yi Shiwen did not stay and directly left the Divine Dan realm. 7 years later, there were more experts in this universe. Because of the Divine Dan realm, many mythical experts also gathered in this universe. In the 7 years that Yi Shiwen was trapped in the Divine Dan realm, these people had wandered in the Divine Dan realm several times and fought with the pill demons in the Divine Dan realm countless times. It was only because the Divine Dan realm was about to return to the void that everyone came out. Even the remaining godly tombs in the Divine Dan realm were attacked by people. However, without the preparations of the King of Elixirs, they did not succeed. In the end, they left resentfully. Even though the Divine Dan realm was about to disappear into the void, these people did not have the slightest intention of leaving. Yi Shiwen soon found out that the reason why they stayed here was all for him. The news that he had obtained the Divine Dan realm had spread throughout these 7 years. After this news spread, it completely shocked the nearby mythical experts. For these mythical experts, the Divine Dan realm was equivalent to an opportunity to prove their Tao. Naturally, they would not give it up. As a result, more and more legend experts who had received the news began to squat in the vicinity of the Divine Dan realm, trying to find Yi Shiwen's whereabouts. Especially in the first few years, they had been keeping a close watch on him. However, in the blink of an eye, 7 years had passed, and no one had heard of Yi Shiwen's whereabouts. They couldn't help but feel disappointed. There were also all kinds of news spreading out. There were rumors that Yi Shiwen had died in the Divine Dan world. Yi Shiwen was seriously injured after Dan King self-detonated. Later, he was chased by that stern young master. During these 7 years, there was no news about Yi Shiwen. It was not that he was hiding, but there was no news about him at all. Could he really be dead? As time passed, the Divine Dan world was about to return to the void. However, there was still no news of Yi Shiwen. Only then did everyone give up on this thought. Perhaps he had really died in the Divine Dan world. This was not impossible. Even if he was still alive, it would be impossible for him to come out after the Divine Dan world returned to the void. After knowing this, Yi Shiwen suddenly rejoiced. Fortunately, he did not come out early. Otherwise, he might have been hunted down by all the legendary masters in the world. Except for those who were in closed-door training, all the legendary masters in the vicinity, if they heard even the slightest bit related to the Divine Pellet, they would all be waiting in the vicinity. Even if Yi Shiwen was very confident in his own strength, but just a rough estimate of the number of legendary masters was enough to make his scalp tingle. If he was surrounded by them, then he would almost certainly die. After learning this reason, Yi Shiwen could only resentfully stop his plan to settle the score with the primordial immemorial pavilion. He hadn't forgotten about the primal origin pavilion scheme. If he hadn't discovered it in time, he would have been hunted down by those pill demons. If I don't take revenge, I'm not a gentleman. Ever since he found out that it was the primal origin pavilion scheme, he had always wanted to take revenge and completely destroy the primal origin pavilion. However, with so many legendary masters waiting in the area, if he really swaggered out, he would probably be destroyed by those ferocious legendary masters before he could do anything to the primal origin pavilion. Thinking of this, he had no choice but to give up on this idea for the time being. He didn't have that much time right now, so he immediately turned around and flew towards the sealed world. When he had first arrived, he had spent a lot of time on the road, but by the time he returned, his cultivation had already taken a big step forward. In just 10 days, he had already reached the edge of the profound world after traveling day and night. In the long history of the sealed world, 7 years was just the blink of an eye. There didn't seem to be any changes. Yi Shiwen directly traversed through half of the sealed world and entered the sealed world battlefield, arriving at the Nameless Tao Academy. However, just as he arrived at the Nameless Tao Academy, he heard something that made him furious. A year ago, after the Nameless Tao Academy ended, the Celestial Fox Master launched a surprise attack on his incarnation. The incarnation he had left there was only there to listen to the Tao. It didn't have much strength at all, so how could it withstand such an attack? It was almost completely defeated in an instant. Hua Minghan, who had rushed over, had a fierce battle with the celestial fox master. However, what was even more unexpected was that young Master Ghost Fortune and Junding Tian had suddenly attacked. The three top experts had joined forces to attack Hua Minghan, severely injuring him. If it wasn't for Bai Jiansheng and Jian Wuchen who had rescued him, Hua Minghan would have probably died at the hands of the three. As for Yi Shiwen's Yuanshan incarnation, Hua Minghan had only managed to snatch a small part of it back. The rest was divided up by the three experts. No one knew when the three of them had joined forces. Their purpose was also very clear, which was to curb Yi Shiwen's development. With the enlightenment brought by the Yuan Shun incarnation, his cultivation would once again increase to an uncontrollable level. Therefore, they decided to strike first to gain the upper hand. In the face of such a situation, the Nameless Tao Academy didn't show any reaction. They were simply indifferent. Good. Yi Shiwen was furious, not only because more than half of his soul incarnation had been snatched away, but more importantly, Hua Minghan had actually been injured by him. For him, Hua Minghan was his reverse scale and couldn't be touched. Despicable. This is too despicable. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes, which were full of killing intent. He had originally thought that the Celestial Fox Master was a character, but he didn't expect him to be so despicable. However, now that he thought about it, it was normal. In order to stifle Bai Jiansheng's growth, he had schemed several times to make Bai Jiansheng jump into the trap. He had made Bai Jiansheng, a genius who had stood shoulder to shoulder with him, unable to continue competing with him. One could imagine how deep the Celestial Fox Master's thoughts were. His elegant and noble demeanor was probably just an act. In fact, he was a cunning fox. The Celestial Fox clan was indeed famous for its deceit. Yi Shiwen was trembling with anger. This had happened a year ago, and now he didn't know where Hua Minghan had gone. More importantly, the cultivation of the Celestial Fox Master and the others had advanced a step further after obtaining the results of 10 years of listening to the Yuan Shun's teachings. Even he couldn't predict to what extent. In these 10 years, his cultivation had progressed at an astonishing rate. However, his opponents weren't much worse off. If he continued to digest the results of these 10 years of listening to the Yuan Shun's teachings, the strength of the Celestial Fox Master and the others would advance a step further. It was necessary to strangle them in the cradle before they had fully matured. Unfortunately, most of his soul incarnation had been snatched away by the Celestial Fox Master and the others, and the rest had been taken away by Hua Minghan. Yi Shiwen didn't know where she had gone. His original plan to advance a step further in the short term had become nothing more than a plan. He was trembling with anger. The Celestial Fox Master. Ha, I'm finally out. Yi Shiwen was just thinking about what to do in the future when Yi Mo's insolent laughter resounded in his mind. Yi Mo, did you succeed? He suddenly said in surprise. He hadn't paid attention to Yi Mo for a long time. He had thought that Yi Mo would need a long time to recover, but he hadn't expected that he would recover so quickly. That's right. This is the effect of the divine elixir that you snatched. It would have taken a long time, but I've been constantly absorbing the elixir energy emitted by the divine elixir during this period of time. This has accelerated the process. Now, I've finally suppressed that evil spirit and have complete control over the Dark Lord's body. Yi Mo's voice had barely faded when his figure appeared in front of Yi Shiwen. It was a man dressed in a black robe. His bulging muscles were bursting out of his clothes. His black hair was messy, and he had an unruly face. He looked like a god who had come to this world. No, he was a god who had come to this world. However, the strange thing was that there weren't any fluctuations of martial power coming from his body. It was just a shell of flesh without any martial power. The original martial power of the Dark Lord had been thoroughly destroyed, and only a shell of flesh that belonged to the god realm was left behind. There wasn't any magic power or magical power left behind. Even so, Yi Mo gave off an extremely terrifying, oppressive feeling just by standing there. He was relying on his innate instinct to float in the void, and it already gave off a terrifying feeling. It was the same feeling as when he had seen the Devil Lord of the Abyss. Yi Shiwen's face revealed a pleasantly surprised expression. Yi Mo's appearance at this time was like a timely rain and had solved all of his worries. Chapter 2085. Yi Mo coming out of seclusion at a crucial time gave Yi Shiwen a huge surprise. The situation in the Xian world was changing, and it was getting more and more disadvantageous for him. He could sense that a storm was brewing, and it was getting more and more intense. If he wasn't careful, it was very likely that he would be implicated. His strength seemed tyrannical, but it was still far from enough to deal with those old antiques. Time was the most abundant thing for him, but it was also the thing he lacked the most. He didn't have that much time to waste. However, the Darkness Lord has lost all his power. You will have to start from scratch, Yi Shiwen said with a frown. What's so difficult about that? I have a divine body. Coupled with my martial arts experience, it will only take me a short period of time to catch up to you, Yi Mo said confidently. He had such strength, not to mention the fact that this was a divine body, which countless people wanted to obtain. He was already a top-notch deity powerhouse. His strength was far beyond Yi Shiwen's imagination. It feels great to have a physical body again. However, this physical body still needs some time to adapt. But it's also because this is the flesh of a god. Otherwise, an ordinary physical body wouldn't be able to contain my primordial spirit and would completely collapse, Yi Mo said with a sigh. When I recover my power, I will personally break the head of the Abyss Devil Lord and use his head as a sacrifice to Yu Lian. Yi Mo's face revealed a somewhat sinister expression, as if he was an Azura that had crawled out of hell. His face was full of murderous intent. His body exuded a monstrous might. Although he had lost his power, this was still a divine body that couldn't be compared to an ordinary person's body. Yi Mo quickly entered the Tianyuan mirror again. He still needed some time to get used to the compatibility between his body and the divine body. Yi Shiwen didn't immediately find trouble with the Sky Fox young master. He didn't even show himself, as he knew that many people in the Xian world were paying attention to his movements and news. Once he appeared, many experts from the Heaven Wasteland Palace and the Divine Union would quickly receive the news. When that time came, he would have enough trouble dealing with these people, let alone other things. Once he appeared, he would definitely make them unforgettable for the Sky Fox young master. After leaving the profound world battlefield, Yi Shiwen went straight to the human race's gathering place in the north of the profound world and went straight to the entrance of the Bai family. The Bai family in the profound world was also a great family in the human race. Although it was not as prosperous as the human race in the desolate land, it was almost the same. There were guards everywhere, and Yi Shiwen was stopped by the guards as soon as he appeared. Who are you? Why have you come to my Bai family? The guard shouted. Tell your young master by Jiansheng that an old friend of Yi family has come to visit, Yi Shiwen indifferently said. The guard didn't know who Yi Shiwen was, but he knew that this matter involved Bai Jiansheng, the newly promoted demigod-level expert of the Bai clan. So, he was afraid that it wasn't a trivial matter. Brother Yi, I didn't expect this. Bai Jiansheng's voice came from afar, and he appeared in front of Yi Shiwen the next moment. A hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Yi Shiwen had disappeared for several years, and he didn't show up even when his soul incarnation was divided up. But now, he had appeared. It was conceivable that there would be a bloodbath in the future. Based on his understanding of Yi Shiwen, he was definitely not someone who would be willing to suffer such a loss. The corner of Yi Shiwen's mouth twitched, and he said, This is not the place to talk, Brother Bai. Is there no place to talk? Yi Shiwen glanced at Bai Jiansheng. Although Bai Jiansheng hid his strength very well, he couldn't hide it from Yi Shiwen. Bai Jiansheng had already stepped into the myth realm, and it wasn't even the case of a beginner, but the third layer of the Paong realm. It could be said that Bai Jiansheng was comparable to Yi Shiwen. Although Bai Jiansheng's combat strength was still not comparable to Yi Shiwen's, his speed was not slow. Presumably, Bai Jiansheng had already absorbed Ting Dao's soul incarnation, which was why there were so many people competing for the Nameless Dao Academy's quota every time. It was not as simple as ordinary people thought. Thinking of this, Yi Shiwen's complexion became even more unsightly. If not for the Celestial Fox Prince, he could have taken a step forward, and his cultivation would have become even more powerful, saving him a lot of hard work. "Yes, please follow me," Bai Jianxing quickly said. The two went all the way to the depths of the Bai family's residence. Along the way, countless people stopped to salute Bai Jianxing, whether they were juniors or seniors of the mysterious realm. There was no exception. Yi Shiwen guessed that the news of Bai Jianxing stepping into the myth realm had already spread. In the face of a myth expert, everyone had to lower their heads. Any family that could produce a myth expert was a very big event worthy of celebration, especially for the human race. If they wanted to establish a foothold in the Xian world, myth experts were indispensable. In a situation where the older generation of myth experts was about to wither away, it was naturally very important to have a new myth expert. The two went straight to a secret room, and after sitting down, Bai Jianxing said, "I thought that Brother Yi had encountered some trouble, and even didn't show up last year, but now it seems that is not the case." "I have indeed encountered some trouble." Yi Shiwen had a gloomy look on his face. He had gained a lot during this trip to the Divine Dan world. He had obtained that Divine Dan pill, which had opened a new path for him in the future. However, he had heard such bad news as soon as he had returned. So, he was extremely depressed. In such a short period of time, Bai Jianxing had actually broken into the third heaven of Paong realm. One could imagine how rich the results of listening to the teachings were. He had started to calculate 10 years ago, but he had missed the opportunity. One could imagine how depressed he was. To be precise, the reason why Master Heavenly Fox and Master Ghost Luck attacked me is related to me. "I'm sorry, Brother Yi." Bai Jianxing couldn't help but reflect on himself. If it was not because of him, how could Yi Shiwen provoke Master Ghost Luck and Master Heavenly Fox? "Brother Bai, don't blame yourself. The cause and effect of the world is impermanent." Yi Shiwen waved his hand and said, "I came to find Brother Bai because I want to know if you know the whereabouts of Master Heavenly Fox, Master Ghost Luck, and Junding Tian." Bai Jianxing sighed. He thought in his heart, "Sure enough, Yi Shiwen will surely retaliate once he returns." His eyes were even more complicated. Although he had broken into the third heaven of Paong realm, he still couldn't see through Yi Shiwen's strength. He also didn't know what kind of adventures Yi Shiwen had in the past few years. His cultivation was even more unfathomable. After Jun Dingtian injured Hua Menghan, he disappeared. It is said that he has left the Xian world. No one knows where he is. It is said that Master Ghost Luck has gone to the tomb of the gods of dusk, and Master Heavenly Fox should be in the Heavenly Fox clan. He should be in closed-door training to refine the knowledge he has gained from listening to the teachings all these years. Bai Jianxing directly told Yi Shiwen everything he knew. "Good, very good. In that case, I will sacrifice Master Heavenly Fox first." Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes, and his killing intent was overflowing. It was hard to conceal his killing intent from head to toe. "Brother Yi, although Master Heavenly Fox has always been extremely cunning and will use all kinds of means to interrupt the rise of his opponents, his strength is undeniable. As far as I know, Master Heavenly Fox has entered the fourth heaven of Paong realm 6 months ago. Now he is in closed-door training. Although I don't know the result, he is not easy to deal with." Bai Jianxing said, "Don't worry, he is only at the fourth heaven of Paong realm. He can't pose a threat to me." Yi Shiwen said lightly. Bai Jianxing's eyes widened. He didn't know where Yi Shiwen's confidence came from. He was shocked in his heart. Yi Shiwen certainly wasn't someone who talked big. So, he must have some trump card that he didn't know about. Bai Jianxing was extremely shocked in his heart. But this is not the only problem. These years, the demon race has been arrogant and domineering. They have repeatedly bullied the human race, and I think you know that I was injured by Master Heavenly Fox in the past. But I almost lost the possibility of advancing further, so we have to endure it. In addition to the fact that the demon race is very powerful, the most important reason is that there is a powerful legendary master in the Heavenly Fox clan," Bai Jianxing said bitterly. Yi Shiwen paused and said, "I don't know how many legendary masters are there in the demon race. Nowadays, the demon race is not as powerful as it was in the past, not to mention the glorious heyday of dominating the Xian world. But even so, including the Master Heavenly Fox, there are still two legendary masters. In addition to an old monster who has lived for many years, there is also a new legendary master, a peerless overlord. Because of this peerless overlord, we have no choice but to swallow our anger. This legendary master is the current patriarch of the Heavenly Fox clan. His cultivation is unfathomable. Even if you have the confidence to deal with the Master Heavenly Fox, it will still be a huge problem. Bai Jianxing suggested. Yi Shiwen secretly pondered for a moment. An unfathomable legendary master would be even more difficult to deal with than the Master Heavenly Fox. In addition to that old monster who was still alive or not, the strength of the demon race was indeed not weak in the Xian world. Even if they were not as powerful as the overlords of the Heaven Wasteland Palace, they should not be underestimated. However, he didn't think about it and immediately said, "This is not a problem. I want to uproot the Heavenly Fox clan to deter the demon race. I don't know if Brother Bai has any ideas?" He stared at Bai Jianxing with bright eyes and seemed to be waiting for his reply. Bai Jianxing's jaw dropped. He didn't expect that Yi Shiwen would be so bold. Chapter 2086. The Heavenly Fox clan was a prestigious clan in the entire Xian world because they had produced two legendary experts in succession. It could be said that they were very prosperous. The emergence of a legendary expert was enough to make a clan or a sect rise to the ranks of first-class forces. Moreover, this was the Xian world, a place where experts gathered. If it was any other place, it would be enough to dominate a world, a continent, just like the ancient ancestor religion. Perhaps even a crazy person would not want to uproot the Heavenly Fox clan. This idea would make one go completely crazy. Even he, who had been suppressed by the Celestial Fox Child all these years and had his rising momentum interrupted twice, was almost like a mortal enemy, but he had never thought of uprooting the Celestial Fox clan because it was too unrealistic. However, Yi Shiwen's words made him excited all of a sudden. These years in the Xian world, the demon race had greatly suppressed the human race, especially the Heavenly Fox clan, which had been constantly oppressing the human race. The grievances between the two races had extended from ancient times to the Xian world, endless as if it would never end. It was unrealistic to uproot the entire demon race, but if it was only one or two races, it was still feasible. This was not surprising. The internal strife of the demon race was even higher than that of the human race. Usually, entire races would be razed to the ground. However, these years, the demon race had always been strong, so it was simply impossible to achieve, especially with the gradual aging of the only legendary expert of the human race. The weakness of the human race had become more and more obvious. And after the second and even the third generation of descendants, the demon race in the Xian world had become more and more rampant, vaguely becoming one of the strongest forces besides those overlords. Yi Shiwen glanced at Bai Jianxing to see if he had the courage to do so. If he had killed his way to the Heavenly Fox clan, then with Yi Mo as his backing, there was nothing to be afraid of unless he encountered the resurrection of the deities. However, the Heavenly Fox Child had secretly injured Hua Menghan, causing her whereabouts to be unknown. This had touched Yi Shiwen's reverse scale. Some people did not believe in evil and wanted to make a move on him, so he wanted to let everyone know that there was only one end for those who dared to make a move on him, and that was the extermination of their entire clan. However, it was simply impossible for him to uproot such a huge race alone. Even if he killed a large number of elites, most of them would still be able to escape, so he came to find Bai Jianxing. Now, among the human race, except for the unknown old antique, Bai Jianxing should be the strongest. In this world, strength was respected, and Bai Jianxing was the leader of the human race. If Brother Bai is unwilling, then it doesn't matter. Anyway, I want to kill the Heavenly Fox clan and kill the Heavenly Fox clan. There should be a lot of good things among them. Demon race has developed rapidly in recent years. There should be a lot of good things among them. If the human race were to obtain them, their strength would be. Although the human race had produced a mythical expert like Bai Jianxing, it could only be considered a stroke of luck. The human race was huge, so it wasn't strange for one or two outstanding people to appear occasionally. Even if they could cultivate to the mythical stage, it couldn't be said that they had formed a legacy. Why did this world attach so much importance to Yang Realm Demon Race? Only by forming a Yang Realm Demon Race would one be able to continuously cultivate powerful experts. Be it the Divine Union or the Desolate Heaven Temple, they were far more powerful than ordinary forces. This was not because their leaders were invincible, but because they could continuously absorb and cultivate mythical-level experts. This was the rarest thing. Just like in Yi Shiwen's previous life, there were so many schools in China, but there were always a few amazing geniuses who were able to get admitted to famous universities like Tsinghua University and Peking University in the face of adversity. But that was all. However, there were also some schools that were able to continuously cultivate students at the level of Tsinghua University and Peking University. This was the inheritance. They had the most rich experience, and they knew where to test and where to revise. This was the role of Yang Realm Demon Race's inheritance. Experts with Yang Realm Demon Race's inheritance were many times more tyrannical than Wild Fox Zen Rogue cultivators because they had powerful seniors to guide them. How could Wild Fox Zen Rogue cultivators compare? Even if those rogue cultivators were occasionally amazing, they couldn't form a Yang Realm Demon Race's inheritance because they couldn't widely disseminate their experience. Just like Yi Shiwen, as a rogue cultivator, he was able to cultivate to this point. It was already amazing and shocking enough, but that was all. His experience didn't have the value to disseminate. If it was someone else with his experience, they would have died a long time ago. The Yang Realm Demon Race's inheritance was broken at the mysterious realm, and the Yang Realm Demon Race's inheritance was broken at the mythical realm. As for the human race's supreme inheritance, it was still in the legendary Heaven Realm. Qin Lai was born in the Heaven Realm martial arts sect, a famous sect. In every aspect, he seemed to be very different from Wild Fox Zen Rogue cultivators like Yi Shiwen. He was knowledgeable and powerful. If the human race wanted to go further, besides Yang Realm Demon Race's inheritance, resources were also a major constraint. However, if they could swallow the Celestial Fox Clan's resources, then the situation would immediately improve a lot. They would be able to cultivate a few more mythical-level experts. This was definitely not a lie. It was something that could really happen. The Celestial Fox Clan had consecutively cultivated 2 mythical-level experts. This proved that they might have some secret methods that others didn't know about. Although the Yang Realm Demon Race was also a part of the human race, it was far inferior to the Heaven Realm Demon Race's base camp. They were originally not recognized as rogue cultivators. The fact that they could develop to this point was already the result of generations of experts and geniuses. It could be said that every step they took left a bloody mark. They were far from being as glorious as outsiders thought. If that's the case, I agree on behalf of my clan, Bai Jianxing said. He really did not want to let go of this opportunity. After becoming a mythical being, he had gone from being the most eye-catching member of the younger generation in his race to the person in charge of the human race. One could imagine how great the change in his status was. The pressure was also unprecedented. The Celestial Fox Prince was already ahead above him. Not to mention, the demon race had more mythical-level experts than the human race. The Celestial Fox Prince had always been a sinister and cunning person. Who knows, he might have some tricks up his sleeves. Although there were still risks in this matter, he didn't believe that Yi Shiwen would use this as a joke. Moreover, nothing in this world could be 100% certain. But Brother Yi, this matter can't be decided by me alone. I have to discuss it with the clan elders. Bai Jianxing looked at Yi Shiwen and said, "Well, I really need to think about this matter," Yi Shiwen said with a grin. "All right, Brother Yi, please wait a moment," Bai Jianxing said after gritting his teeth. Although there were great risks involved, he didn't want to miss this opportunity. In the past, he didn't have this opportunity. He was still free and didn't really feel the real pressure of the demon race. However, as he stepped into the mythical level, he began to take over the human race's affairs in recent years. The pressure was getting greater and greater. This was a rare opportunity. If he succeeded, then the situation would immediately be reversed in a short period of time. It would no longer be the human race hiding from the demon race. Instead, it would be the demon race hiding from the human race. After leaving the secret room, Bai Jianxing quickly used a secret technique to notify the big shots of the human race who were qualified. Soon, dozens of powerful old antiques gathered in a secret space. Bai Jianxing, why did you use this method to summon us? Could it be that the demon race is planning to launch a final attack? An impatient old ancestor took the lead and spoke first. These people were the last elites and foundation of the human race. Without exception, they were all peerless experts at the peak of the profound death realm. They were not inferior to Yi Shiwen before he had broken through. No one knew how many years they had cultivated for, but their strength was unbelievably strong. Even in the face of a mythical expert like Bai Jiansheng, they didn't behave like ordinary people. That's right. My cultivation has reached a critical point. Now it has been completely disrupted by you. Someone also spoke, slightly dissatisfied. That's right. This matter is related to the demon race. It can be said that it concerns the fate of our race for the next 1,000 or even 10,000 years. Bai Jianxing said, cupping his hands. Hearing Bai Jianxing's serious words, the old ancestors who were originally clamoring suddenly quieted down. They were listening to what he wanted to say. What matter could be related to the fate of the human race? Seeing that the old antiques had quieted down, Bai Jianxing couldn't help but open his mouth and explain the matter to them. Everyone was silent. Although some of them were rather irritable, they weren't people who couldn't distinguish the severity of the situation. From Bai Jianxing's words, they could tell that this matter had a great impact on the fate of the human race and the demon race. Both the demon race and the human race had to tuck their tails between their legs after arriving in the Xian world, a place where there were countless experts. The overlords of the post-desolation era were still not enough in the Xian world. They had experienced an extremely glorious era. However, when they walked out of the great changes caused by the demon race's invasion, they discovered that this world was much bigger than they had imagined. Experts who were more tyrannical than them could be found everywhere. The situation of the human race in recent years was not optimistic. They had barely produced a mythical expert like Bai Jianxing in thousands of years, and he was almost crippled. For other races, the efficiency of producing a mythical expert in thousands of years was not high, but it was still acceptable. However, for the human race, who only had a lifespan of 10,000 years, the inheritance of a mythical expert was almost broken. Without the protection of a mythical expert, it might not be a big deal in the ancient times, but in the Xian world, it could lead to a disaster or destruction. Chapter 2087. This matter involved a lot of things. If they were not careful, it was very likely that the entire human race would be destroyed. They had to think about it carefully. I don't think there is any need to hesitate about this matter. If we don't seize this opportunity, the gap between us and the demon race will only get bigger and bigger. In the future, we will also face the disaster of extermination. An old ancestor said, it was unrealistic to surpass an opponent who was stronger than oneself and improve one's strength in a short period of time. However, there was a simple way, and that was to pull the opponent to the same level as oneself. Originally, this could only be imagined. Now that this opportunity was placed in front of them, it was simply a good thing like a pie falling from the sky. There is no such thing as a pie falling from the sky. There is no such thing as a free lunch in this world. Another old ancestor snorted coldly and said, have you investigated this Yi Shiwen's background? I know a little about this. An old ancestor said, when this Yi Shiwen became famous in the early years, our clan considered whether or not to recruit him. Currently, the human race lacked resources, inheritance, and geniuses. It was not easy to find one, so naturally they wanted to rope him in. That's why I specially investigated his background. He claimed to be from the remote antiquity. This matter is no longer a secret. I also sent people to investigate. He is indeed from the remote antiquity Yi family. Old Yi, your family really has a 1,000-mile horse. The ancestor looked at one of the old men with a face full of wrinkles with an envious face. In the ancient barons, he also made a big name for himself and saved the human race of the ancient barons several times. Sigh. After we came to the Xian world, We rarely went back to pay attention to our ancestral land. We didn't even know that our ancestral land was almost uprooted. This is far more than a powerful horse. According to Bai Jiansheng, this is clearly a divine dragon. Another old ancestor said, but since there is no problem with his background, then there should not be any problem. Let's talk about the ancient barons later. The key now is Yi Shiwen's proposal. Everyone, do you think it is feasible? An old ancestor glanced at the crowd and said, in the profound world, the human race was far more united than in the desolate era. In the desolate era, the human race was the overlord. Even the other overlords could not truly threaten the position and existence of the human race. However, in the profound world, although they were powerful, they were still far from being an overlord. They had to band together in order to survive. Therefore, even if they were somewhat despicable, they were much more united than the ancient desolate clan when faced with the fate of their entire clan. Of course it's feasible. However, although this kid is very capable, his ability to cause trouble is also top-notch. Both the Heaven Wasteland Hall and the Divine Union are trying to capture him. Someone chuckled. Upon hearing the names of the Heaven Wasteland Palace and the Divine Union, everyone felt a suffocating sensation. If one wasn't born and raised in the profound world, how could one understand the terrifying pressure these two names represented? They were true overlords, their status even greater than the status of the human race in the desolate era. If they joined forces with Yi Shiwen this time, the real problem wouldn't be whether they could destroy the Sky Fox clan. Given the strength of the human race, it would still be possible to destroy the Sky Fox clan as long as someone could pin down a myth expert. After all, the Sky Fox clan was only a part of the demon race. However, the real problem was that Yi Shiwen had caused too much trouble. Although the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace had long noticed the humans in the profound world, they didn't have any evidence to prove that they were directly related. Therefore, they couldn't directly take action. However, if they joined forces this time, there was a considerable possibility that they would face a terrifying attack from the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace. The threat of the demon race would be in the long term, but if they joined forces with Yi Shiwen, then the disaster of destruction was likely to be right in front of them. Yi Shiwen could just leave and leave, but what about the powerful human race? Let's do it. What the F***CK are we afraid of? Kill them. As the Yi family's old ancestor, Old Yi was the first to break the silence. We have already reached this point. What else is there to be afraid of? It's just a matter of whether we get annihilated sooner or later. There's nothing to be afraid of. His words seemed to ignite the bones and blood in everyone's hearts. How many generations has it been? We have always been suppressed by the demon race in the profound world. Now that we finally have such an opportunity, are we going to watch it disappear just like that? There's only one chance. If we don't take it, we will suffer. Let's do it. Let's do it. Isn't it just the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace? What's there to be afraid of? If we weren't afraid of their mythological experts, how much stronger could they be than us? Someone shouted loudly. Under the shadow of these overlords, the human race trembled in fear. They had lived their lives with their tails between their legs for too long. Let's do it. Go back and tell Yi Shiwen that we will do it. Our ancestors fought with the heavens and fought with the earth to carve out a path of blood. Why are we afraid when it comes to us? Let's do it. This time, I will send all the seeds of the family into the depths of the void. Then I will mobilize the elites and do it. If we succeed, our race will be able to advance further. If not, we will be destroyed. Someone said with a somewhat sinister expression. He had been completely stimulated to the point of madness. Yi Shiwen was slightly surprised when he heard from Bai Jiansheng that the higher-ups of the human race had made a decision. He wasn't surprised that Bai Jiansheng had such courage. After all, he was a mythological expert. No matter what, he could protect his own life. However, he was surprised that those old fogies of the human race still had such courage. It seemed that the courage of the ancient ancestors had not completely disappeared. Well, since you are ready, then I want to see the elites of the human race come out in 10 days. Yi Shiwen said lightly. He alone could attack at any time and anywhere. However, the human race was so large that it would be a little tight to mobilize all the elites in 10 days. No problem, Brother Yi. This time, we are betting on you. Bai Jianxing took a deep breath and said. This time, they were gambling. They had no other choice, and there was no way out. The oppression of the demon race had forced them to consider the future. The survival of the human race was not a matter of silence. It was either perishing in silence or exploding in silence. Don't worry. Since I dared to say this, I naturally have a guarantee. This time, I will take care of everything. Yi Shiwen squinted his eyes. I know what you're worried about. The people of the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace are indeed not a small problem. However, I could tell you in advance that it's not like I don't have a trump card. I guarantee that they won't be able to return. Otherwise, do you think I would have appeared so rashly? From the moment I appeared, I'm afraid that the various major forces will soon receive news of my arrival. The trouble of the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace is also coming. Wait for me to take care of them all at once. Yi Shiwen's words were filled with incomparable confidence. Bai Jianxing didn't know where Yi Shiwen's confidence came from. He was afraid that it would be difficult for him to protect himself by relying on his own strength. However, he believed that Yi Shiwen definitely had some unknown trump card. However, as long as he thought about Yi Shiwen's confidence in resisting the trump card of the Heaven Wasteland Palace and the Divine Union, he would be extremely excited. Perhaps this time, they might really be able to follow Yi Shiwen to the next level. If it was said that he had some thoughts of competing with Yi Shiwen in the past, he now realized that there seemed to be a huge gap between him and Yi Shiwen. Not only was Yi Shiwen's unfathomable strength, but more importantly, Yi Shiwen's boldness in facing the Heaven Wasteland Palace and the Divine Union without falling into a disadvantageous position was something that he did not possess. Not everyone possessed this boldness despite knowing that there was a tiger in the mountains. Fortunately, such a person has appeared among the human race. In that case, I'll leave it to you. I'll immediately mobilize people from all sides. We'll see the results in 10 days. The human race began to mobilize troops frequently. Countless elites were mobilized from various extended spaces, secret realms, and exploration of dangerous places. The actions of the human race in the mysterious world had also aroused the vigilance of the major forces. Although the human race in the mysterious world was not as terrifying as the human race in the ancient desolate era, they were still a major force in the mysterious world. How could such an obvious mobilization of the crew be carried out quietly? The spies hidden among the human race of the major forces quickly sent news back. However, they did not obtain the slightest bit of information about what the human race was planning to do. Only a few dozen higher-ups of the human race knew about Yi Shiwen's matter. They did not reveal anything to their subordinates, so their subordinates naturally did not know. Moreover, this operation itself was not an operation that had been planned for a long time. It could be said that this operation was carried out on a whim because of Yi Shiwen. Therefore, even if they wanted to find out something, it would be useless. There was no news at all. However, all the forces that had ties with the human race had made preparations. Only God knew whether the human race had gone crazy and planned to fight to the death. These years, the predicament of the human race was not only due to the oppression of the monster race. The other major forces were also adding fuel to the fire. They wanted to destroy the human race and divide up some benefits. If the human race suddenly went crazy, even if it was a dying counterattack, it might cause them to suffer heavy losses. The mysterious world, which was already not peaceful, suddenly caused countless people to speculate because of the sudden action of the human race. 10 days passed in the blink of an eye amidst such preparations. Sure enough, the news of his appearance quickly spread, just as Yi Shiwen had expected. Although he had only shown his face for a short while, there were many spies among the human race. So, they had found out about him very quickly. The Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace, the two forces that had great enmity with Yi Shiwen, directly sent people to question him. Chapter 2088. In the main hall, the leader of the human race, Bai Jianxing, sat on the throne with an ashen face. Below him, two groups of people were looking at him arrogantly. They simply did not take him seriously. One could tell that they were experts from the Heaven Wasteland Palace and the Divine Union just by looking at their clothes and insignia. This time, the expert leading the Heaven Wasteland Palace was an old man with an arrogant expression. There were faint fluctuations of divinity on his body. He was actually a palace master. In the Heaven Wasteland Palace, only those who had entered the myth realm could apply to become a palace master. In the Heaven Wasteland Palace, there were also differences in strength between the palace masters. Clearly, this palace master was not weak. The aura on his body suppressed by Jianxing. Behind him were 5 or 6 experts, all of whom were at the peak of the profound death realm. The leader of the Divine Union was a skinny middle-aged man with a gloomy expression. He had one wing on his back. Yes, it wasn't 2 symmetrical wings. Instead, it was just one wing. He belonged to an unknown winged race. However, he wasn't any weaker than the Hall Master of the Heaven Wasteland Palace. He faintly exuded black, quintessential essence and joined forces to suppress by Jianxing's aura. There were also 5 or 6 Divine Union elites behind him. Bai Jianxing's face was ashen. These 2 people had said that they were here to visit, but in reality, they were not here to visit. They were clearly here to cause trouble and demonstrate their strength. However, the strength of these 2 people was a level higher than his. The 2 of them had even joined forces to directly suppress him on the throne and make him unable to move. He looked coldly at the 2 of them. One could imagine the anger on his face. He was a straightforward and righteous person, but he was not a good person who did not know how to retaliate. By Jianxing, I'm sure you know why we're here. Our people saw Yi Shiwen appearing in your clan. Could it be that you've taken him in? The old man from the Heaven Desolate Palace took the lead to speak. His eyes were filled with contempt. Bai Jianxing was especially furious, because this Hall Master of the Heaven Desolate Hall was not from another race, but also from the human race. Now, he had sided with the Heaven Desolate Hall, completely abandoning his identity as a human race, and was actually working together with a foreign race to pressure his mother's race. Kaka, I think you guys are really tired of living. He is someone that our leader personally said he wanted to capture. You guys dare to take him in? Do you really want to be exterminated? The gloomy middle-aged man said with a sinister smile. His voice was hoarse and unpleasant to hear. This is an internal affair of our humankind. How do you know about it so clearly? Have you planted spies in our humankind? Bai Jianxing asked coldly, with a straight face. Bai Jianxing, don't say such empty words. Planting a spy is a very normal thing. The gloomy middle-aged man added, I advise you to think this through. If the human tribe offends the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Hall, there will be no place for you to hide. There are some people that you can't protect. That's right. The Hall Master of the Heaven Desolate Hall nodded and said, I am also from the human race, and I don't want to see the human race wiped out. Therefore, by Jianxing, you better think this through. Do you want to cause the entire race to be wiped out because of Yi Shiwen? You still remember that you are from the human race? A disdainful sneer came from the entrance of the hall. The face of the Hall Master of the Heaven Desolate Hall immediately turned ugly. He turned his head and saw a human standing at the entrance. Who else could it be other than Yi Shiwen? Great, you can wear out iron shoes and fruitless search, only to find it by chance without even looking for it. The Hall Master of the Heaven Desolate Hall said with a sinister smile. He immediately forgot the anger of being secretly ridiculed as a snitch. Compared to the huge news of Yi Shiwen, everything else seemed to be less important. You are really bold to actually dare to appear in front of us. If I were you, I would quickly hide far away. Kaka. That's why I said that you can only be a dog of the foreign race forever. Yi Shiwen said with a cold smile. What did you say? The Hall Master of the Heaven Desolate Hall immediately widened his eyes, and a terrifying aura condensed on his body. Being ridiculed by Yi Shiwen was simply a slap to his face. I say, you're just a dog of the Desolate Heaven Hall. You do have a good cultivation, but it's a pity that you're willing to be a dog of the Desolate Heaven Hall instead of working for the clan. Yi Shiwen said indifferently. What do you know? What can the human race give me? They can't give me anything. The resources I want, the cultivation techniques I want, they don't have anything. Only the heaven desolate hall can satisfy my needs. I am now a high and mighty hall master. The hall master of the heaven desolate hall said angrily. He was born from the human race, but he had sided with the heaven desolate hall. This was the greatest pain in his heart, and also the biggest stain on his record. Ordinary small races might not care much about this, but to large races like the human race, the demon race, and the demon race, their race was a huge sect. Siding with a sect other than the human race meant betrayal and was unforgivable. This was the pride of a large race. You even gave up your mother's race and willingly became a dog of someone else. Such a person wants to prove his Tao? What wishful thinking, Yi Shiwen said with a cold smile. You have a sharp tongue, but it's useless. No matter how sharp your tongue is, you can forget about escaping death today. Do you think the human race can protect you? He can't even protect himself? The hall master of the heaven desolate hall said angrily. Yi Shiwen's words were like a knife that directly pierced into his heart. Humph! It's not certain who will die today. The army is about to set off, and we still lack people to sacrifice. I think the few of you are just right. Yi Shiwen sneered and suddenly attacked. A huge hand was formed in the void and grabbed towards the hall master of the heaven desolate hall. The hall master of the heaven desolate hall was both shocked and angry. He did not expect that Yi Shiwen, whom he regarded as prey, would not escape, and instead took the initiative to attack. This was simply a provocation. Boom! A majestic aura was emitted from his body, and golden chi and blood flooded the hall. If the hall had not been reinforced by countless formations, it would have completely collapsed on the spot. It was extremely terrifying. The powerful strength that belonged to the peak of the third heaven of the Paong realm was completely displayed. Although his realm was similar to Bai Jianxing's, his strength was much more tyrannical and profound than Bai Jianxing's. Eat my fist, he shouted loudly, and directly clenched his 5 fingers into a fist, and then directly punched towards Yi Shiwen's huge hand. Boom! An incomparably loud boom was heard, and the fist and palm collided. Then, only a miserable shriek was heard. The hall master of the heaven desolate hall immediately let out a miserable shriek and continuously retreated. The divinity that was emitted from his body was completely shattered in an instant, and the arm that he had punched out directly exploded in the air, as if it had encountered a terrifying force that could not be resisted. The eyes of the hall master of the heaven desolate hall were filled with incomparable horror, and he could not believe it at all. They were clearly in the same realm, so how could Yi Shiwen be so terrifying? He actually smashed his entire arm with a single palm. If it was not for his quick reaction and rich experience, and all the power dispersed into his divinity, he would have been smashed on the spot. Stupid, you're just a frog in a well, Yi Shiwen sneered. This trip to the Divine Dan realm had broadened his horizons, and he had long felt completely different from before after seeing so many legendary experts. Bai Jianxing also widened his eyes in disbelief. Although the palace lord of the Heaven Wasteland Palace was annoying, he had to admit that this person was very troublesome. Even if he used all his means, he might be able to defeat him, but it would only be a Pyrrhic victory. Yi Shiwen was able to casually blow up a peak of the 3rd level of the Paong realm. Such a cultivation was simply a shocking monster. The hall master of the Heaven Desolate Hall immediately knew how terrifying Yi Shiwen was and understood what kind of monster he had encountered. He immediately let out a long roar. Do you want to continue watching? If I die, you won't have it easy either. You will also die in his hands. He intends to kill all of us. The words of the hall master of the Heaven Desolate Hall immediately made the gloomy middle-aged man's expression change slightly. His strength was at most on par with the hall master of the Heaven Desolate Hall. If they did not join forces, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the thought of this, he did not hesitate at all. He directly took a deep breath and spat it out. Immediately, his spirit was shaken. This was the essence energy in his body. Since he had already reached this stage, he did not dare to have the slightest hesitation. As for Bai Jianxing, he wasn't worried at all. He wouldn't dare to make a move against the people of the divine union and the desolate heaven palace. However, Yi Shiwen was different. He was simply audacious. What was there to be afraid of? The profound chi was constantly absorbed by the void, and then it turned into a crescent moon machete, which appeared in his hand. He directly grabbed it, and then his body suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already appeared behind Yi Shiwen, and that machete had suddenly chopped at the back of Yi Shiwen's head. Immediately, "Be careful," Bai Jianxing exclaimed. Just as he was about to make a move, he saw that Yi Shiwen's reaction was even faster. Almost in an instant, he had already turned around, and a somewhat disdainful smile appeared on his face. "Insignificant skill. How dare you show off in front of me?" Yi Shiwen sneered. He clenched his 5 fingers into a fist, and golden fist energy surged out, turning into a universe, and directly blasted out. Boom! The gloomy middle-aged man was blasted on the spot, and his body was directly blasted through. His internal organs and spirit were all blasted in an instant, and his entire body flew out. Then, in the process of flying out, there was a loud bang, and he exploded into powder, killing an expert at the peak of the 3rd heaven of the Paong realm with one move. Was this his strength? Bai Jianxing was shocked. Chapter 2089. The two of them were no match for Yi Shiwen even if they joined forces. Furthermore, they were already down one. The palace master of the heaven desolate palace did not hesitate at all as he flew away and turned into a ray of light that escaped. He fled in fear. He had never imagined that things would turn out like this in the end. He had almost been completely annihilated. However, since he had already made his move, Yi Shiwen was not a soft-hearted person. He attacked once again and pointed his finger at the sky, causing the palace master of the heaven desolate palace to explode. Although the palace master of the heaven desolate palace was impressive, how could he be compared to Yi Shiwen? Yi Shiwen's finger was as heavy as a mountain and directly exploded. Without the leadership of these two mythological experts, the remaining profound death stage experts still wanted to struggle. However, they were no match for Yi Shiwen and Bai Jianxing. They were directly suppressed by the combined forces of Yi Shiwen and Bai Jianxing. This time, we have really severed all ties with the heaven desolate palace and the divine union. Bai Jianxing sighed. Yi Shiwen glanced at Bai Jianxing. This time, Bai Jianxing was undoubtedly willing to take a risk. This was also a favor. "Don't worry, I won't let you guys suffer this time. After all, I am also from the human race," said Yi Shiwen. Bai Jianxing nodded. He had finally agreed because of this. During this period of time, Yi Shiwen's information was no longer a secret. During the ancient desolate realm, he had done a lot to feed the human race. He had even turned the tide and helped the human race escape from the predicament of extinction. If not for the threat of the demon race, the human race in the ancient desolate realm might have climbed back to the position of one of the 5 overlords with his support. The human race of the mysterious world and the human race of the ancient desolate realm could be considered to be of the same lineage. They were originally 2 sides of the same coin. In fact, it could even be said that the human race of the ancient desolate realm was the main branch of the human race. Honestly speaking, Yi Shiwen also had the right to control the human race of the mysterious world. However, after being separated for so many years, it was unrealistic for him to use his identity from the ancient desolate realm to control the human race of the mysterious world. In the face of true strength, it wasn't important at all. However, Yi Shiwen was also a little annoyed in his heart. The ancient wilderness had been invaded by the devil world, and the human race had almost been wiped out. However, the human race in the mysterious world hadn't made any big moves. In the past, it could be said that the news about the ancient wilderness had been cut off, and things had suddenly happened. However, after he arrived in the mysterious world and stirred up a storm, things in the ancient wilderness were no longer so cut off. Although the human race had sent people back to the mysterious world, they didn't make any big moves. This was also the reason why Yi Shiwen was secretly annoyed. This time, he came to the human race in the sealed world to give them one last chance. If they missed this chance, then he would cut off all ties with them. Furthermore, the Desolate Antiquity era wasn't the only human race. If the Desolate Antiquity era's humans were well-trained, they would have a large number of powerful experts as well. With the resources he had now, he could easily raise hundreds of profound realm experts to the Desolate Antiquity era. The reason why the strength of the Desolate Antiquity era's humans stagnated was to a large extent because these top experts had gone to the mysterious world, slowly cutting off the inheritance of those above the mysterious world. Otherwise, in terms of environment, the ancient demon realm wouldn't have been a remote place in the past. He knew that there were voices of opposition among the human race. To suddenly challenge such a powerful opponent, even though the Celestial Fox clan was only a part of the demon race, they had two mythical realm experts, and there might even be other demon race experts coming. These were all problems he had to face. He knew what the human race in the mysterious world lacked. What they lacked was courage. From the Desolate Antiquity era to the mysterious world, they had become stronger, but that arrogance had also been lost. Originally, he planned to go to the mysterious world to find the ancestors of the human race who had gone there. However, times had changed and things were no longer the same as before. Although he still wanted to borrow the strength of the human race, he didn't desire it as much as before. He knew that the real trouble in the demon race was not the huge army, but the abyssal demon lord. This terrifying existence was almost at the Tao confirming realm, and no one could deal with it. This was the biggest problem. If there was no abyssal demon lord, how could the human race imperial court be breached? Bai Jianxing knew that this time, they had no other choice but to follow Yi Shiwen to the end. Without freedom, they would rather die. The blood flowing in their bodies began to boil. The moonlit night was quiet. Boundless light shone down, illuminating the entire sky, illuminating the way home. The ancestral land of the Celestial Fox clan was densely packed with all kinds of cities and villages. Those who lived there were either direct descendants of the Celestial Fox clan or subspecies of the Celestial Fox clan. Just like the Dragon clan, the Celestial Fox clan also had many subspecies. Woo-woo! The sound of an incomparably huge bull's horn resounded in the entire sky like muffled thunder in the east. The space around the ancestral land of the Celestial Fox clan, which was originally very calm, suddenly began to fluctuate wildly. Groups of Tao soldiers rushed out from it. The powerful force that belonged to the human race showed its fangs for the first time. Squads of cavalries galloped out from the void, trampling on the sky. Many strange beasts roared uneasily, cruel and incomparably ferocious. Kill, don't let a single person go. Today is the day of the Celestial Fox clan's extinction. This was an extremely terrifying scene. Countless experts soared into the sky. Countless strange beasts roared, like a large dark cloud, crushing towards the Celestial Fox clan. The Celestial Fox clan was one of the strongest clans in the Demon clan. There were two peerless mythical experts in the clan. They were one of the most powerful forces in the world. Although they weren't an overlord, they still had the foundation and aura of an overlord. They had always been the ones who bullied others, but they had never thought that one day someone would kill their way into their ancestral land. In other words, even if there was such a person, it shouldn't be the human race that they had never thought of. Such a battle cry shook the sky, as if millions of celestial soldiers and generals had descended from the sky, enough to destroy everything. Such a huge movement, naturally, could not be hidden from the many forces in the ancient wilderness. Some powerful figures almost immediately sensed the disaster that the Celestial Fox clan had suffered. How is this possible? How can the human race be so bold to provoke the Celestial Fox clan? So powerful. How many people are there? It is said that the human race has declined, but this branch of the human race, even if it is not the main branch, has so many experts. It is no wonder that they are called the human race. Too powerful. There are still countless hidden experts in the human race. Many people were completely shocked when they saw such a large number of elites, and their faces were full of astonishment. Everyone might not have thought that there were so many elites in the human race, and they did not expect that the human race would dare to take the initiative to provoke them. This was not in line with the information that they had received before. However, the demon race is not to be trifled with, especially the Celestial Fox clan. They're not ordinary people. There are two mythical experts in the clan. Let's not talk about how the human race can fight against these two mythical experts. Even Bai Jiansheng and that old fool of the human race are not a match for the two mythical experts of the Celestial Fox clan. It will be difficult for the human race to capture the Celestial Fox clan in a short time. When the other demon race receives the news and comes to support, this army of Renzu will be completely annihilated, and the elites of the human race will also be scattered. Are they crazy? Someone exclaimed. It was true that the human race came in a majestic manner and directly attacked the Celestial Fox clan. However, the Celestial Fox clan was not ordinary, and they were not easy to deal with. It was impossible for ordinary people to capture them in a short time. As long as they could not capture them in a short time, the human race army would be in big trouble. At this time, they finally understood the reason why the human race frequently moved and deployed troops. It turned out that they wanted to take the initiative to attack. During this period of time, the demon race has indeed pressured the human race to the point that they can't breathe. Instead of being slowly killed by them, it is better to take the initiative to attack first. In this way, they still have a chance to fight for a chance of survival. Among the demon race, the Celestial Fox clan has two mythical experts. They're undoubtedly the elites and the backbone of the human race. If they can be uprooted, the threat of the human race will be immediately removed. To capture people, first capture the king. To shoot people, first shoot the horse. This idea is good. It's a pity that the strength of the human race is still far from the demon race. Even if they want to annihilate the Celestial Fox clan, I'm afraid it won't be that easy. One night. They only have one night. At most one night, the other demon race will receive the news and come to support them. At that time, they will be dead. Many people suddenly reacted. However, there were still not many people who were optimistic about the human race. However, many of the powerful people only paid attention to it. After all, it was not related to them. No one would fight with the human race for the sake of the demon race. In particular, it seemed that the human race had become somewhat crazy. It was better not to provoke them if possible. Let the human race and the demon race suffer. This was just right. They could also take advantage of the situation. The outcome of the battle would be decided in one night. This was related to the fate of the two races for countless years to come. The human clan had caught the Celestial Fox clan off guard. Millions of soldiers had been teleported over and killed their way through. For a moment, the Celestial Fox clan had been completely routed. They couldn't even put up a decent defense. We surrender. Please spare us. Many experts of the Celestial Fox clan were completely scared. They knelt on the ground and begged for mercy. However, they were crushed by Run Zu's army without mercy. This was not a private battle between two parties. It was a battle between two races that would determine the future of the two races. There was no room for mercy. Boom! A ray of light fell from the sky and directly blasted into the human race army. It directly collapsed a large part of the sky. Hundreds of human race cavalry directly disappeared on the spot. How dare the human race? How dare you invade my race? Chapter 2090. This was an attack from a distance. That terrifying power directly created a huge crack in the sky. Even the void was shattered. A mythical expert attacked from a distance. Although he couldn't intervene immediately, he still reacted immediately. Kill! Such an attack only hindered the advance of the human clan army for a moment. The human clan army's cavalry was like a torrent, rushing out and destroying everything. In the air, a six-pointed star formation was set up. Among the experts who had arrived a step earlier, there were many formation masters. At this moment, these formation masters had already finished setting up the formation. More and more human cavalries flew over through the teleportation formations that had been set up. Countless human clan warriors covered the sky. Everyone was in uniform. These were the Tau soldiers that the human clan had cultivated for many years. They were also the last reliance of the human clan. A shocking war was about to begin. This was just a confrontation between the vanguards. It hadn't entered the most intense time yet. Everyone had entered a frenzied state. The Celestial Fox clan, who had been caught off guard, finally reacted at this time and began to roar. Fight with them. These lowly humans actually dared to sneak attack our station. I think they are really tired of living. Go revive those arrays. Let these humans see the consequences of offending our Celestial Fox clan. Kill these humans. Loud roars were constantly coming from the ancestral land of the Celestial Fox clan. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. One by one, the ancient arrays were revived. Under the control of the experts of the Celestial Fox clan, they constantly bombarded the humans. In this regard, the Tau soldiers of the human clan were also prepared. They constantly flashed the defensive arrays. Some came and went, but they couldn't stop the advance of the human clan army. The large arrays that were revived in a hurry naturally weren't that powerful. They couldn't stop the human clan army at all. Although the human clan army had a lot of casualties, they were determined to destroy the Celestial Fox clan. They advanced even faster. In many places, the large arrays were occupied by the human clan army before they could be revived. They couldn't play the role of the large arrays at all. The human race's raid was too sudden. Although they had already received the news that the human race was mobilizing their forces, they didn't take it seriously. No one expected that the human race would actually launch a suicidal attack on them. Yes, it was a suicidal attack. Otherwise, there was no way to explain why the human race, who was weaker than them, would attack them. Although they were confident that they could defeat the human race, at the same time, the mad human race could also cause great damage and trouble to them. This would cause great harm to their leadership position in the human race. Naturally, they hated the human race very much. Fight with them. We must stop them from advancing. Wait for the two lords to come out. One of the experts from the Heavenly Fox clan roared out in rage. Both his eyes were bloodshot as boundless Yao energy began to surge out from his body. Next, his body grew bigger and bigger, instantly turning into an incomparably huge Yao fox the size of a small mountain. The four tails on his back kept swaying, causing the earth to quake and the mountains to shake. Opening his mouth, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Fight! We must make the human clan pay the price in this battle. These experts of the Celestial Fox clan, who had been forced to a dead end, showed their original bodies one after another. Although they might not be as huge as this expert of the Celestial Fox clan, they were still very huge. For a time, the whole world was filled with the roars of foxes. This was the advantage of the Demon Clan. When necessary, they could change back to their original bodies. Although changing back to their original bodies would make them unable to use some martial arts skills, it could make their power more powerful. In the state of their original bodies, they were even more tyrannical. These celestial foxes, or subspecies of the celestial fox, all kinds of strange foxes on the front line, showed their original bodies one after another. They directly stopped the advance of the human clan army. Every time they waved their tails behind them, the earth shook and the mountains shook. Endless power continued to expand and destroy everything. The Celestial Fox clan is indeed a legendary, powerful clan of the Demon Clan. There are only a few clans with such strength in the Xian world. Such a huge strength is enough to delay the human clan. As long as the human clan is delayed, the Celestial Fox clan will definitely die. Countless people were shocked by these demon foxes who went crazy after their transformation. These demon clan dominated the world in the past. They definitely did not rely on luck, but they possessed real strength. Just when everyone thought that they would see an even more intense collision, they only heard a loud cry of a bird. Then, from the transmission array behind the humans, a huge figure flew out. It was an incomparably huge bird. No one knew when it had flown onto the battlefield. He directly opened his huge mouth and swallowed countless huge foxes that were still wreaking havoc. For a moment, the entire battlefield was cleared. What is that? Everyone was stunned by this unforeseen event. Even the experts of the human race were stunned. Just what was this thing? However, they reacted rather quickly because this huge bird was clearly here to help them. Kill. Take this opportunity to defeat these demon clan. A human clan descended and directly killed a two-tailed fox with a spear. He shouted loudly and led the entire army forward. This huge bird was completely black and gold wherever it passed. Even the transformed demon foxes could not withstand a single blow and were directly blown away on the spot. Otherwise, they would be bitten to death. "This is a rock!" someone roared. He immediately recognized the huge bird flying in the sky. He didn't know where it came from. It was not because he was knowledgeable, but because this Kuan Pung had really caused an uproar and attracted the attention of countless people. Especially in the universe of the true martial domain, it did not know how many mythical experts it had devoured. Its fierce name directly caused many sects that only had one mythical expert to directly decline. Therefore, this powerful demonic beast that should have existed in the myths resurfaced in everyone's mind. Therefore, they were able to recognize the true identity of this ferocious bird in the first place. In this world, Tiananmen did not believe that there would be a second ferocious bird like this. Who else could it be other than the rock? Moreover, during this period of time, they were already very clear about the strength of this rock. Mythical. This was undoubtedly a mythical-level ferocious beast. During this period of time, it was almost unimaginable how many powerful existences it had killed. And this ferocious bird had long been confirmed to be related to Yi Shiwen. Its purpose was to stop those experts who wanted to wreak havoc in that universe. As long as they did not act recklessly, this rock would not act recklessly either. This was something that they had already known for a long time. In this way, a name suddenly appeared in their minds. Yi Shiwen. Yi Shiwen. A storm was set off in their minds. Although this speculation sounded very inconceivable, only Yi Shiwen could control this Kuan Pung. This Kuan Pung was extremely cunning. Even a legendary peak existence had tried to capture him. Who would have thought that he would escape? He tried to steal a chicken, but ended up losing the rice used to lure it. Although everyone did not know how Yi Shiwen subdued this rock, they were extremely envious and jealous. The rock was not an ordinary ferocious beast. It was the leader of the 10 ancient ferocious beasts. It could almost be said to be the king of ferocious beasts. Those legendary, powerful, ferocious beasts were all food on its menu. One could imagine how terrifying it was just by imagining it. Those ferocious beasts were almost at the top of the food chain in the universe. Even the gods would fall in the hands of these ferocious beasts from time to time. However, these ferocious beasts were the food of the rock a long time ago. Now, although this young rock was obviously not fully grown, it was already very difficult to deal with. Who wouldn't want to subdue it? From this point of view, this was the only possibility. Perhaps Yi Shiwen had really come out. At the thought of this possibility, everyone suddenly became excited. In the past, Yi Shiwen was like a troublemaker who stirred up trouble everywhere he went. But now he was different. Now that he had stepped into the myth realm, he was an expert who could stir up the entire Xian world. Even giants like the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace did not dare to casually say that they could ignore a mythical realm expert. Moreover, during this period of time, something shocking had happened. Young Master Sky Fox, Young Master Gui Yun, and Jun Dingtian, the 3 peerless geniuses in everyone's eyes, had joined forces to fight for Yi Shiwen's spirit incarnation. They had robbed him of the fruits of his Dao listening. In the end, they had even injured Hua Menghan, and her whereabouts were unknown. This could be said to be shocking. Everyone only had one goal, and that was to prove their Dao. Now, these 3 people had snatched Yi Shiwen's Dao fruit. For a martial artist, this was simply a great hatred that was greater than killing a family. Not to mention that he had injured Hua Menghan. There had always been a rumor that Hua Menghan and Yi Shiwen had an ambiguous relationship. There were even rumors that Hua Menghan and Yi Shiwen were actually Taoist companions. It was just that no one dared to verify this. After all, Hua Menghan not only had the backing of the ancient Phoenix realm, but she was also extremely powerful. Who would dare to provoke her? Throughout the entire process, Yi Shiwen had not shown himself. There were even rumors that Yi Shiwen had fallen in a small world. Otherwise, he would not have personally appeared for such a big event like the nameless Dao College's graduation. Could it be that he was afraid of the Divine Union's leader and the Heaven Wasteland Palace Master? Given his lawless character, No one would believe him, even if he told them. What could the reason be? Chapter 2091. What could the reason be? This was also a question that countless people were concerned about. After that, news of Yi Shiwen's appearance was heard. Very soon, the Divine Union and the Heaven Wasteland Palace sent people to confront him. However, the people they sent would probably never return. From the looks of it, Yi Shiwen might have already conspired with the human race in the mysterious world. Both parties had clearly joined forces. Otherwise, this immature Kuan Peng would not have appeared here. In other words, there was also hope, and it was likely to be nearby. This young Kuan Peng had been confirmed to have the ability to devour legendary masters, and Yi Shiwen had once slaughtered a legendary master, so he had an illustrious reputation. In other words, there were two more mythical experts. In this way, there was actually one more mythical expert than the demon race. I finally understand why the human race is so daring to take the initiative to launch a sneak attack on the Skyfox race. It turns out that Yi Shiwen has conspired with them. This is a little troublesome. Given Yi Shiwen's strength, he is indeed enough to cause trouble for the absolute ruler. That's not necessarily the case. To us, legend rank experts are like the heavens and the earth. They are completely unrivaled. However, there are differences in strength even amongst legend rank experts. Just like the initial stage of profound life stage and the peak of profound death stage. Both are profound death stage experts, but can they be considered the same thing? That's true. In this way, although they have the advantage in numbers, they may not have much chance of winning. Although the Sky Fox Prince is a new mythical expert, in terms of strength, even the old antiques of the older generation are not his match. Not to mention the Sky Fox clan leader, who is extremely tyrannical and has long achieved the Tao. The Sky Fox clan has been able to make such an illustrious name all these years because of their clan leader. No matter what, the fight between these two big clans is not a bad thing for us. I can't wait for both sides to suffer. That would be the best. That way we can take advantage of it. That's right. We can also watch a great battle between mythical experts for free. This is something we can't usually see. Just wait. The real battle between the two sides is yet to come. The real battle between mythical experts will decide the outcome. The battle cries in the sky became louder and louder. The human race army was like a hot knife through butter. With a mythical expert like the young Kuan Peng leading the way, they were practically unstoppable. The Sky Fox clan's defenses were like tofu dregs. The attack was almost 360 degree with no blind spots. It was an indiscriminate attack. All of them besieged and began to outflank the entire Celestial Fox clan, wanting to completely annihilate the entire clan. The sky had already been covered by dark clouds, as if even the heavens could not bear to watch such a tragic massacre and had hidden themselves. Only endless screams could be heard under the moonlight. In the void, another gigantic creature appeared out of nowhere. It descended from the sky and directly crushed countless arrays. It was a gigantic creature. The roar of the star beast resounded through the world. This time, no one was surprised again. Even the young Kuan Peng had appeared here. Then, it was not surprising that the star beast, who had advanced and retreated together with him, had also appeared here. Moreover, if everyone was just guessing just now, they were almost certain now. Yi Shiwen must have appeared here. Look, isn't that Yi Shiwen on the back of the star beast? Someone suddenly shouted. Everyone looked at the slender cyan figure on the back of that incomparably huge, ominous beast in the sky. Who else could it be other than Yi Shiwen? Everyone was shocked and excited at the same time. They could actually see Yi Shiwen's figure here. Did that mean that the Heaven Wasteland Palace and the Divine Union would also participate? After Star Beast Avatar landed directly, it showed amazing destructive power. It almost swept away many arrays and flattened them. Boom! 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 Many martial arts torrents swept out from the arrays, directly swept the Star Beast on the spot, but they could not shake the Star Beast at all. Yi Shiwen's combat power was on top of the Star Beast's head. He was expressionless and indifferent. As everyone had guessed, there was no one else besides Yi Shiwen who could find the Star Beast and the young Kuan-Peng. Apart from Yi Shiwen, who else could command these two wild and unruly ominous beasts? He did not even need to make a move. Although there were some experts among these demon foxes, they were completely defeated under the situation of the Star Beast and the young Kuan-Peng attacking from the south and the north. They were not his opponents at all. He did not need to care at all. The human race army advanced with irresistible force, as if nothing could stop them. However, Yi Shiwen knew that this was due to the Kuan-Peng and the Star Beast taking the lead. Although many arrays were very dangerous, there were very few that could pose a threat to mythical experts. After not seeing each other for a few years, the young Kuan-Peng had devoured many mythical experts, and it actually allowed him to directly enter the 4th level of the Paong realm. Although the Star Beast was not so exaggerated, it also entered the 3rd level of the Paong realm, and its injuries were recovering well. In terms of realm alone, Yi Shiwen couldn't gain any advantage over them. In addition, they also possess some strange magical powers. Perhaps even the experts of the legendary realm, who were 1 level higher than them, would find it difficult to take advantage of them. Therefore, the advancement could be so smooth. Whether or not a legendary master was in charge of a force was like the difference between heaven and earth. Because of this, Yi Shiwen was able to kill his way in so smoothly. Even the Heavenly Fox clan didn't have enough time to transmit the news. Often, the news had just been transmitted when the army of the human race had already arrived. So, there was no need to mention any resistance or defense line. Occasionally, there were some defenses, but they were directly broken by the Kuan-Peng and the Star Beast. In front of the mythical beasts, these were nothing. However, Yi Shiwen knew that these battles were just appetizers. The real battle still depended on the mythical experts, so he was not in a hurry and waited slowly. However, as they advanced further into the core area of the Celestial Fox clan, the foundation of the Celestial Fox clan finally slowly manifested. Various ancient arrays were resurrected one after another. Some of them could even play a fatal role in killing mythical experts. This was the last resort of every clan. In the human race, there were also such means. Therefore, even if they knew that the human race was in imminent danger, and that their reliable old ancestor was about to fall, they only dared to attack the human race from the periphery. They did not dare to attack the human race's main camp. This was the logic. Which clan did not have a few means, not to mention the human race and the demon race, who had once dominated the heavens and realms. In the sky, the arrays were resurrected one after another, some for defense, some for attack. Although they were constantly being broken, they were all in good order, very impressive. Furthermore, with the appearance of many battle fortresses, the entire defensive line was practically stabilized. Even a profound death stage expert would die if they were struck by those battle fortresses. However, the human race was naturally prepared. Many of the strange beasts under them were incomparably huge, enough to contend against the battle fortresses. In addition, they also had their own battle fortresses. For a moment, the entire sky was filled with all kinds of colorful attacks. It was very dazzling. One after another, the cities and tribes of the Heavenly Fox clan were destroyed and turned into ruins. Cruel killings were everywhere. Regardless of whether it was in the sky or on the ground, the figures of the human race were everywhere. They were invincible wherever they went. In a situation where there were no legend experts, the strength of the entire human race was naturally much more powerful than the Heavenly Fox clan. Dong! 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 The bell tolled, signifying that the Celestial Fox clan was in extreme danger. It turned into sound waves that spread out in circles. It was unknown how many years it had been since they had experienced such a battle. Therefore, these alarms had not been used for many years. However, many people immediately reacted when they heard it. Many almighty experts who were in seclusion also woke up one after another. These sound waves ignored the defensive formations and directly entered their cave residences. They all flew out to stop them, but it was useless. In front of the well-prepared human cavalry, they couldn't even withstand a single blow. This was simply a massacre. At least up until now, it had been a massacre. Kill, we must stop them. More and more warriors of the Heavenly Fox clan directly transformed into their original bodies. However, it was useless. They could not stop the attack at all, and were killed one after another. Sometimes, even Yi Shiwen would take action. He raised his head and looked at the void. He was waiting for the Heavenly Fox young master to take action. Although, according to the information he received, the Heavenly Fox young master should have been in seclusion. However, such a big movement would alarm even the Heavenly Fox young master. That was his real battlefield. Today, no one can save the Heavenly Fox clan, Yi Shiwen said in a loud voice. He said it not only for the Heavenly Fox clan to hear, but also for those forces who were ready to make trouble. Roar! Finally, an incomparably loud roar came from the depths of the Heavenly Fox clan. Then, a truly terrifying and huge, ferocious figure appeared in front of everyone. It was an incomparably huge blood-red fox with only one tail. However, it was even more terrifying. When its tail moved, the entire sky was shattered. Its body was as huge as a huge mountain. As soon as it appeared, it opened its mouth and spat out a spirit bomb. The spirit bomb, with a diameter of tens of meters, instantly spat out towards Yi Shiwen, who was on the Star Beast. Chapter 2092. Boom! An incomparably loud roar resounded, and the huge Yuan Qi bomb directly blasted over. The power was extremely terrifying. Shwa! 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 In front of Yi Shiwen, 5 figures suddenly drilled out and set up a formation. The terrifying Yuan Qi bomb directly blasted into the entire formation, and then was swallowed by the entire formation. Boom! There was a violent vibration in the void. That Yuan Qi bomb directly exploded in a different space. The aftermath of the explosion shook the space of the Xian world crazily. One could imagine how terrifying it was. This beast does have some skills. Yi Shiwen narrowed his eyes. This red fox's power was definitely above the myth realm. However, Yi Shiwen was a bit puzzled. They had almost reached the core area of the Heavenly Fox clan. Why hadn't the Heavenly Fox Prince and the Patriarch of the Heavenly Fox clan appeared yet? Let me attack. I want to swallow him alive. As long as I swallow him, my injuries can be mostly healed. Star Beast growled in a low voice. Its eyes were red, and its killing intent was infinite. Can you handle him? Yi Shiwen asked. Don't worry, the Star Beast roared. At this time, the Star Beast under Yi Shiwen's feet had already swept out like a mountain range. It crossed the sky and was extremely terrifying. Boom! The fiery red fox directly opened its bloody mouth and spat out another Yuan Qi bomb. Star Beast was not to be outdone. It opened its big mouth, and the power of the surrounding stars was instantly absorbed. It was mixed with endless Yuan Qi, turned into a Yuan Qi bomb, and spat out. Boom! There was a huge roar. The 2 Yuan Qi bombs directly blasted together, forming a monstrous shockwave. In an instant, the radius of 1,000 miles turned into a monstrous battlefield. In this range, whether it was the human race warriors or the experts of the Heavenly Fox clan, they were directly sent flying. Some weaker ones were killed by the shockwave. Shwa! The aftermath caused by the collision of the 2 spirit bombs had not completely dissipated. The Star Beast instantly pounced on Lass. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at the fiery red fox. 2 huge, mountain-like ominous beasts fiercely collided in the void. Compared to these 2 ominous beasts, the experts of the Heavenly Fox clan who had transformed into their true forms were dwarfed, like children facing a supergiant. The entire sky seemed to have fallen into the battle between these 2 terrifying beasts. Dazzling rays of light burst out, and the power of the stars and the power of the flames all over the sky collided fiercely. This was a clash between 2 legendary experts. He had already abandoned all other laws. Only the simplest and most brutal way of fighting was left. This vicious beast was also extraordinary. Yi Shiwen didn't know what kind of exotic species it was. It could actually fight with the Star Beast to this extent. Kill them. We can't let them advance. If they advance any further, they will enter the core region. Kill them. Build my spirit. and I will never perish. Finally, when the human race army bypassed the two battling ominous beasts and advanced to the core region, the elites of the Heavenly Fox clan finally appeared. With a swoosh, hundreds of existences at the peak of the profound death realm suddenly appeared. This was the foundation of the Heavenly Fox clan. The appearance of these existences at the peak of the profound death realm immediately blocked the advance of the human race army. The human race's vanguard army was directly caught off guard by these hundreds of existences at the peak of the profound death realm. More than half of them were annihilated on the spot. Human race, how dare you? Since you have come today, don't even think of leaving. Stay here. Suddenly, a cold snort resounded in the void. A handsome middle-aged man in a white robe took a step forward and directly traversed the void. He arrived in front of the army. Even though he was facing millions of soldiers, he did not have the slightest bit of fear. Long live the clan leader, invincible. Clan leader, please take action and annihilate the strong enemy. The heavens bless our clan. We will definitely win. Seeing the appearance of this middle-aged man in a white robe, all the experts of the Heavenly Fox clan were instantly in an uproar. Everyone was shouting loudly. They were actually caught off guard by the human race and directly charged into the core region. They were on the verge of collapsing, but now that they saw him appear, they suddenly received a boost of motivation. On the other hand, the morale of the human race stagnated. The reputation of this man in front of them was too ferocious. He had forcibly raised the Heavenly Fox clan from an ordinary demon race clan to a position above the 10 Great King clans, making it the current #1 demon race clan. There was no one who did not know of him. Sigh, looks like I still have to personally take action this time. A sigh came from the human race. An old man with a head of white hair and a withered face walked out step by step. When the human race saw this old man, their morale was immediately boosted. This was the only remaining old senior of the Xian world human race, Old Antique. Before by Jiansheng, he was the only legendary expert. Long live the human race. Old ancestor, please take action and annihilate the Heavenly Fox clan. We are invincible. On the human race's side, their morale was even higher. You shouldn't have come. You had a chance to die peacefully. But now, you don't even have this chance. The Heavenly Fox clan patriarch glanced coldly at the old human race patriarch and said, "Even if we don't take action, will you let us live peacefully?" The old human race patriarch chuckled. There was a hint of mockery in his smile. You've been making connections among the demon race. Didn't you want to take advantage of the situation to destroy our human race? At least you can die peacefully. The Heavenly Fox clan patriarch did not deny it. These things were done by him. So naturally, he had nothing to say. It's a pity that you've even given up this last chance. Without you, the human race is just a piece of fat meat waiting to be slaughtered. Do you think you can rely on just a junior? You're already so old. You should spend your remaining years at home. But someone doesn't let me spend my remaining years in peace. What should I do? The old chief smiled faintly. While I can still move my old bones, it's my duty to pull out some nails for the human clan. The old patriarch looked at the Heavenly Fox clan patriarch and continued, You can't stop us. You also know that although the Heavenly Fox clan has made earth-shaking progress under your guidance these years, compared with the entire human race, you're still too far behind. Indeed, there's still a huge gap between our strength and the entire human races, but it's enough to just hold you back for one night. You only have one night, and then it'll be your disaster. You want to take out a few nails for the human race? You're right, but unfortunately, you've chosen the wrong target. The Heavenly Fox clan is not an existence that can be used to make an example out of others. The patriarch of the Heavenly Fox clan sneered and said, Tomorrow, the human race will be removed from the Xian world, and all of this is because of the wrong decision you made. It's just a little sooner or a little later. Since you're going to take action anyway, it's better for us to take action first and nip the trouble in the bud. You're too strong and too arrogant. If you hadn't colluded with others to attack the human race, the Heavenly Fox clan wouldn't have suffered today's disaster. Everything is decided by fate. The old patriarch narrowed his eyes and said intermittently, The patriarch of the Heavenly Fox clan immediately shouted and said with an agitated expression, "Shut up! There's no right or wrong in fighting for the survival of our clan. How can your human race occupy such a large territory? Who do you think you are? Without your hindrances, our clan can soar into the sky and have the opportunity to develop to the overlord level in the future. How can you understand my ambition? Your ambition is not bad, but it's a pity that you're too impatient. If you had a few more years, you might really have a chance, but today, everything will change." The old patriarch of the human race said with a smile, "You think too easily. Do you really think that the Heavenly Fox clan is so easy to deal with? The human race is powerful, but as long as we can hold you back, it's too easy. Aren't you afraid of being wiped out here?" The patriarch of the Heavenly Fox clan snorted coldly. His voice turned into sound waves that swept out in circles and directly hit the bodies of the human race warriors. Some of the weaker human race warriors vomited blood and were directly injured. This was the terrifying strength of a top mythical realm expert. The old patriarch of the human race was not to be outdone. He took a step forward, and the sky in the distance collapsed. A terrifying force shattered the void. Many experts of the Heavenly Fox clan vomited blood on the spot and were sent flying. The void collapsed when the two mythical realm experts fought. When the immortals fought, the mortals suffered. I think you're really tired of living, old thing. Today, let me send you to heaven. The patriarch of the Heavenly Fox clan took a step forward. His body was boiling in the distance. There was a sonorous sound and a momentum that could swallow mountains and rivers. This was an extremely terrifying mythical realm expert. He was a peerless character who single-handedly brought the Heavenly Fox clan to its current state. If there was a chance in the future, he might even be able to prove his way. The human race is very powerful, but you're too conceited. How dare you attack the Heavenly Fox clan? Today, the human race will be completely wiped out. A long blade appeared in the hands of the patriarch of the Heavenly Fox clan. Countless laws of the blade manifested directly. He sneered and said, "It's a pity that you're no longer at your peak. Otherwise, even I would have been defeated by you. But now, you've already entered the Angel Decay Stage 5. Don't take advantage of your seniority. Do you still want to remove the nail for the human race? I think you'll eventually lead the human race to be wiped out." The old patriarch narrowed his eyes. The fact that he was nearing the end of his life was pointed out. In fact, his body was already entwined with the death chi. Even Yi Shiwen could see that his life was indeed coming to an end. Cut the crap. Today, I will remove the greatest nail in the human race's coffin. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.